You're listening to Arsenal Pass, a flesh and blood podcast for players by players, and all about strategy, leveling up, and the latest news in the world of Wraith. Welcome to Arsenal Pass.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Arsenal Pass episode 162. This is the part of the Mistveil limited set review. Hayden here with Brendan Patrick. As always, how you feeling about the set, Brendan?
Looks powerful. Looks exciting for constructed. I know we're going to talk about limited, so I probably shouldn't say that, but it looks exciting for constructed, which I think is really cool. Because there's been a few sets in Flesh and Blood where that hasn't been the case, but I know. I think back to Bright Lights, because in regards to like complexity of trying to understand the mechanics and like codependent mechanics, like trying to get an idea of like how exactly should I play the set if I was going to sit down in Tokyo in a couple days. It's complex for sure. It reminds me of Bright Lights in that sense, but I do think in terms of like constructed playability, it gets me a lot more excited than that set. I also think that the limited set could be very, very fun, especially with this new mechanic of 30 cards. That like it's so funny how overarching mechanic. It's so funny how overarching that concept is. Like it does drastically change the context of pretty much everything we've been doing in Flesh and Blood limited since the inception, right? I mean, back in the day, we all played 30 cards because we came from other card games. But, you know, once that stopped happening, I think that it definitely overshadowed a lot of other strategies. So not that this will necessarily be better, but it is different. It is a very different lens to look through, in my opinion.
Yeah. I've played a few games with the Blitz decks, so if you haven't already seen, the Blitz decks were released by LSS, and they're doing these Road to Tokyo events, so these Blitz decks have already been available to play for some people in person. I've played some games on Telesha, just to get the handle on like some of these cards and what they're like and what they do. And I think the 30 card limit, I guess like set card deck size, is actually, I think it's going to be super interesting. Because there's some cards that do some recursion, there's some cards that mill. I mean, the obvious default is, okay, no banishes cards, right? Yeah. So is that just the default kind of sealed plan, is just to lean on that?
And does it get bodied by Enigma, right? So that would be the theoretical counterpoint, is that you would get absolutely destroyed by Enigma. Exactly what I thought when I looked at New. I was like, okay, so for a 30 card cap, I mean, this New is an absolute card advantage machine. So I was like, maybe 100%. We just fatigue people out with New. We'll see if that
so
works.
I think it forces you to play in different ways. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. I mean, the fear obviously is that Nu's the only playable hero in sealed, right? But I from some early games, I don't think that's the case. I played a bit with Enigma. I think Enigma's really powerful.
Yeah,
I haven't played as much with Zen.
You've never thought that was the case. You've always been a believer at the begining, and the middle, and the end sometimes. But you definitely are.
I mean, heavy hitters. I was a believer all the way through that fatigue was bad.
But I would definitely say you're prone to being like everything is playable, everything is kind of fair, equal. At least at the beginning, you have this. You have this approach, I believe.
I'll start with glass half full.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, this is the limited set review. If you haven't listened to one of our limited set reviews before, we've been doing this now since Monarch, Brendan. This is a couple of years of set reviews at this point. We started with it, so 3 years of set reviews at this point. This is I believe our 9th limited set review. We'll kind of talk. It's been a few, my friend, We'll talk a little bit about how this works quickly, and then we're just going to dive straight into it. And but basically, I guess the point of this, and we're also trying to get this out as early as possible. We have majority of the cards now. One of the reasons we have to record this now is I'm heading out to Tokyo to play the world premiere. So we're going to talk more about the limited format and retrospective next week before the pre-release. All things around how to tackle your pre-release, learnings from sealed. Hopefully there's some learnings from draft as well. And we'll revisit some grades that we talk about here today. But there is a couple of cards still missing, so we'll revisit on those as well. Most of them are generics at this point.
Yeah.
Rating scale. Got to talk, how do we grade cards? How do we rate cards? Now, when we give cards a grade, the more important piece is the discussion that we have around how cards can be utilized, can be played in decks. These grades are more of a way to evaluate how good roughly are these cards. Now, it's always in context, right, when it comes to Flesh and Blood, because it's about the other cards in your deck, it's about the overall strategy, it's about the deck they end up landing in. But some of the ways we grade cards is we try and be, if we think a card is just generically powerful, we're going to give it a high grade. If we think it's going to go into a lot of decks, you always want this card no matter what hero you are. Say it's a Mystic card, for instance, or generic, then it's going to get a higher grade, right? Versus something that's a bit more narrow. So we use an ABCD rating scale with some subgrades. And the way this works is A is the best of the best. These are the cards that are going to be the focal points of your deck. If you think about bombs, if you come from other card games, bombs is a term that's used a lot. These are auto-includes. These are things that are going to help you push more than the average damage or set up big turns. If we think about some cards from the past, some favorites are things like from the previous set, actually, when we go to the previous set, Good Time Chapeau. I think that's an easy A from heavy hitters, right? Brendan, maybe even Red Bear Fangs. If you go back further, Red Death Touch, for instance, cards that are easy first picks as well that might also keep you open. Bs, these are above average role players. These cards are going to be important to your overall strategy, and you want to fill your decks with Bs. If you have a lot of Bs in your deck, overall your deck's probably going to be a lot better. These are going to be things that are really important in your particular archetype and do a job for you. So if I think about heavy hitters, these could be things like Stonewall Impasse, the equipment. It could be Red Concuss in your Guardian deck. It could be Raw Meat. It could be Red and Yellow Wild Rides, for instance, in your aggressive brute deck. These are cards that are going to be above rate most of the time and do a lot of heavy lifting for you. Cs, these are the true role players. A lot of the time, this can be what makes up a bulk of your deck. But these are really important. These are things that, like your block threes, these are things like your good efficient resource cards or just your good run-of-the-mill attacks. If I think about the previous set, heavy hitters, I think of cards like Test of Strength. I think about Agile Engagement, Wage of a Yellow, for instance. These are the cards that are important. And then Ds, these are the cards you want to play as little of as possible. These are usually what Brendan fills his limited decks with. Pure filler with no real upside. Generally cards that are just making up your 30, I guess now in this case. If I think about the previous set, I actually forgot to write this one down. What's the yellow high stakes? What's the yellow card that made a gold from the previous set? Oh, I'm so bad at names sometimes. That card, I forgot to write that one down, is a perfect example. Also things like yellow performance bonus. I think blue Bear Fangs, you definitely don't want those in your deck. Adrenaline Rush to some extent. If you go back further, these could be things like blue Brush Off from Outsiders. So cards you want to play as little of as possible. And then we have a couple of kind of side grades. We have setup grade, which we'll give to some cards sometimes, which these are really true build around things that you need to kind of have other cards to help support to make sure that they can do the job you need them to. If I think about heavy hitters, Rising Speed, I think is one of those. You want ways to draw cards to efficiently make sure you could give that card a go again. Otherwise, it was pretty bad. Might have been a setup sort of B-, C+. Otherwise, it was kind of a D, C- territory. And then we have Cyborg grade, which is just cards that we think are just purely for certain matchups. I mean, the ultimate kind of, I guess, original of this was like Eclipse Existence and Ray of Hope, right? From Monarch, your Light vs. Shadow.
Right. Do you remember when a developer first picked that on a video?
I believe it's a good friend of yours.
That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. That card was absolutely terrible. This is probably the worst card in the set. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I got through the spiel. No, I got through the spiel.
Yeah,
I did it.
Sorry, that's a little piece of Flesh and Blood lore, but man, Eclipse Existence, what a terrible card. Unplayable even in the sideboard, by the
way. Yeah, the other one was good though. All right, we have some general set notes when it comes to Part the Mistveil. There's 8 common Transcend cards. I think it's an important thing to remember. Transcend is going to obviously be a common theme through the set. If you haven't seen what Transcend is yet, Transcend is a mechanic that when you play the card, if you've played another blue that turn, you will flip the card. It turns into an inner chi. It's going to go back to your hand. And then that inner chi is going to allow you to activate your hero ability, plus other things potentially in this set as well. We have 14 non-transcend mystic commons and rares. I think when we get to these, Brendan, this is going to be an important discussion. These are basically generics in this limited set. They are pretty important cards, I think, and they're all blue. Very important to remember, they're all blue. Think of it like the inverse of Uprising. If you played Uprising, obviously, you had the Draconic cards, they were all red. In this set, we have the Mystic commons and rares, they are all blue. We have 14 common equipments and 3 rare. That's a lot of common equipments. I think that's the most in a set we've had in a long time. I think we were kind of floating around there. It's usually it's higher than you think, but at common, it's pretty high. And then 3 rare, which are the class mystics. And then we have 1 common token weapon per hero, which we'll get into. And then, there's 1 D-react at common or rare. It's a mystic defense react. That's also important to know.
What are your thoughts on yellows in Part the Mistveil?
They seem pretty bad.
Yeah, they seem like actual dog water. I was just like, because it's funny. I actually got this idea. The idea really crystallized for me when I went to the fabtcg.com website and I read their primer. And their primer didn't mention putting any yellows in your deck. It's like, you're going to want some good reds and some blues. And I'm like, wait a second. Yellows are like so bad. Like, we are going to have some serious bananas getting passed in those drafts at the late end.
So there's some good yellows, and I think it's really important as we go through. I'm going to try and point out what I think are the good yellows, because I think they are significantly better than the other yellows in the set. There's some really bad yellows in the set. It reminds me of Uprising, right? You know, Uprising felt, and also remember, this is a 30 card set deck though, so I think that does help. Whereas previously, you know, it felt like you got too many of those bananas, as Brendan likes to say, those yellows, filling out your kind of like 30 to 33rd. It was tough. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, I think it reminds me of Uprising because of the importance of a particular color. In Uprising's case, it was red. In this case, it's blue Mystic, or blues in general. It just makes those cards even worse potentially, as opposed to maybe something like Heavy Hitters, especially where I think the defensive value of those cards and Heavy Hitters were sometimes relevant. Let's talk quickly about ability effect keywords / type subtypes. There's a few new ones in this set that are good to know about. We'll read them out the first time we get to them as well. Again, but cloaked is an important one. This is very new, very cool. You have cloaked equipment in the set, and cloak means they start face down, and then they have a clause to be able to turn them face up. So you kind of have extra hidden information in this format, which I think is cool. We talked about this the other week, right? Kind of a little bit akin to Clash from the last set in Heavy Hitters in terms of some unknown, some hidden information. But this one is a little bit more. You were saying you think it might appeal to more competitive players as opposed to Clash did. Yeah,
because Clash was inherently random on the first cycle. Yeah, I wonder there's going to be those pre-release spikes just like scouting out their prospective opponents' cloaked equipment.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Chi resources, we talked about that. You get inner Chi or Chi resource to pay for Chi specific costs. Chi has it's blue. It's a blue resource symbol, but it looks different to the blue resource symbol. So make sure you check that on your cards. If you look at any of the heroes, they have the Chi symbols on them for hero activation abilities. And they come from, as we say, those Transcend cards. Transcend, which we already talked about. Ephemeral, which is a type or a text line which says that when this card would go to the graveyard, instead gets removed from the game, and you're going to find these on these almost token-like cards that get created from other cards. So Crouching Tiger is one that we've seen previously that is back in the set. Cards create Crouching Tigers, they go to your hand when you play them, and then when they go to the graveyard, they get destroyed. Ward is a returning mechanic. Ward says prevent the next X damage that be dealt from a source. Legendary, text change. This is an important one. We talked about this the other week, right? Legendary now says, as a not the subtype legendary like your equipment, for instance, like Fyendals, Spring Tunic, whatever. Not the legendary rarity, but the sub text legendary, which says you can only have one of these in your deck. If you think about something like via the Vanguard, right? Was via the Vanguard no? What was the one from Reaping? Soul Reaping. Soul Reaping was you can only have one in the deck, right?
Was there another, or was it the only one of Monarch?
I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, definitely Soul Reaping. Definitely Soul Reaping.
Soul Reaping.
No, definitely.
Used to say, that was said you can only have one of these in your deck, including limited. Now that legendary text change now says one per constructed deck. So you can play multiple of these Transcend cards in your limited deck, copies, which is important to remember. Combos back for Ninja. And then Stealth, important to remember, Stealth is stealth. It means nothing else other than what stealth gives you. Yeah. It's just a word.
It's a word that can be referenced by other things, which are important, but it is simply just a word.
All right. Should we get into it?
Let's do it. Let me get ready on my side.
You tell us where we're starting.
Oh, it's in perfect order, baby. We're starting with Fangs Strike. We're talking about the tokens, Mystic Assassin. We're going to start with tokens on pretty much every single hero, just to give you context of some of these. Like things like Fangs Strike and Slither are absolutely critical to New's game plan, and you actually can barely understand how the hero works if you don't know what these do. So let's start with those.
Sure. So Mystic Assassin, and we're going to kick into each of the classes by their Mystic type and then the class type. Starting Mystic Assassin, as Bren says, tokens, Fangs Strike. So this is ephemeral. This is something that's created by other cards. It doesn't start in your deck. So ephemeral, reading for the first time, says this can't start the game in your deck. if this would be put into a graveyard instead, remove it from the game, and Fangs Strike says target attack action gets +1. It is a 0 cost Mystic Assassin attack reaction. It has no defensive value. It has no pitch value.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then next up we have Slither, which is the same thing. So Mystic attack reaction, ephemeral, all that good stuff. But it does say target attack action gets go again. So this one's going to be an A+ for me. Now, we're not giving grades of these tokens, but it's important to note that these are the tokens that are going to be created. And we talked a little bit on our previous week's pod with our first impressions of sort of the power level of Slither and Fangs Strike, respectively. And yeah. So into New Alluring Desire. You want to read this one out for everybody, Hayden?
Yeah, so New, of course, the young hero for limited, is a Misc Assassin hero, young, 20 life, 4 intellect, says your attacks with stealth, so again that keyword stealth, get when this chain link resolves, banish all action cards defending this. An instant, 3 chi resources. Look at the top card of an opposing hero's deck. If it is blue, you may banish it. Until the end of turn, you may play blue cards from that hero's banish zone without paying their resource costs. So a couple of things important to note with New. To activate that ability, you do have to pitch chi, so you do need to have transcended at some point to get access to chi. And then also, you look at that top card, regardless of if that card is blue or not, you do get that second part of the text, which is until end of turn, you may play blue cards from your hero's banish zone without paying their resource cost. That hero power is very, very powerful and is basically how you either set up some really big turns with New, abusing your opponent's at that point banish pile. So one of the things that's really key when playing into New is how you defend their attacks. You've got to be really careful about the blue cards you put in front of New's attacks that could be banished. As well, there's also ways that New can banish stuff from graveyard as well. So you've also got to be careful about the blues that go to your graveyard. New's very interesting.
And we need to talk about her weapon as well. So the token weapon that accompanies the Mystic Assassin is Beckoning Mistblade. It says once per turn action, 2 resources attack, and it has go again. It says when this hits, your next blue attack this turn gets +1 and go again, and this attacks for 1 damage. So a bit of a callback to some of our old assassin weapons. But yeah, I mean, what were your thoughts on the weapon as well? Because, this is an interesting set compared to the last one because we don't have any higher rarity weapons. They seem to all be tokens. What was your experience with this weapon in particular playing against it?
I didn't read the last part of this text the first time that I looked at it, which is it gives go again to the next blue attack as well. It's really powerful. I think even in constructed, this is going to be powerful for New.
What value do you put on go again? By the way, we had this conversation a little bit back we were talking about KO and stuff, and I think we even had in particular with Tariq Patel because he was doing the math on some of these different tokens that you would get in heavy hitters. What value do you quantitative value do you put on something like go again? Because it's above 1, right?
I think it's dependent. It's no set answer. I think people can equate it to somewhere between 2 and 4 value. Usually, it really depends, right? And limited especially, it's going to depend on the set and the context. So, for instance, this gives blue cards only go again, right? So, it's probably less than the value on other things, but there's a lot of blue cards in the set that get extra value for pitching cards or having played blue cards, which we'll get into. The other thing as well is obviously when you play your opponent's blue cards, you're playing them for free with the New hero ability. So if you're giving something go again and it's for free, that go again value is pretty strong, right? It could be as high as 7, honestly.
Yeah, it's the most face up powerful thing I think in the set because you look at something that is effectively saying draw a card plus not pay the cost, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, there are some hoops you have to jump through to get to it, but I think that's why you have some of these people sort of ringing, blowing the whistle on New immediately as one of the more powerful things you could be doing in Sealed potentially, right? It also just falls into some of the particular play patterns that we're used to in Flesh and Blood and past sets, but you read that and you're just wait, what? It does both of these things? This is absolutely crazy. But we'll talk about, more about the ninja and the illusionist, how they can be powerful as well. I want to talk about, just real quickly before we get into the cards, just 4 news cards. A lot of them do have stealth on them. I was just rating stealth cards on the likelihood that the secondary text would be relevant for the most part. That was dictating a lot of my ratings because they were very similar to each other. And we already talked about this, but new as the ultimate card advantage hero that can maybe institute a fatigue game plan, especially in a 30 card deck capped format. And I said that I guess this theoretically gets bodied by Enigma. That strategy, that would be the idea. If you were able to put up the sort of triangle or triumvirate of this beats this, that beats that, and this beats this, it would be, okay, new is a very powerful attrition-based strategy, but it loses to things like Illusionists that have onboard persistent threats, theoretically.
Yeah, and also Enigma's it's quite hard to play Enigma, honestly. There's a lot of decision trees. I recommend, if you haven't watched the developers' gameplay videos that they put up on LSS with the Blitz decks, I would go and do so. I think, obviously, those developers built these heroes and designed, the game plans in terms of how they wanted them to play, so they kind of execute them in a way that you'd expect them to play out. And I think Enigma is one that is particularly worth watching because it's hard to play Enigma correctly, I think. I played a couple of games against, friend of the show, Damakai, testing partner. The first game we played, New versus Enigma with those Blitz decks, he absolutely bodied me and fatigued me. And I was like, what am I meant to be doing here? And then the next 2 games, it wasn't even close, Brendan. I absolutely destroyed him. So, with Enigma. So, yeah, right. I think we're going to talk about some of the ways that this blade in particular, there's a lot of things that I think are important to interact with this blade, because you do not want this blade to hit most of the time. It is really powerful. Like, it's not just 1 damage. It's minimum 2 damage because of the +1. Sometimes that's going to cause you to take an extra 5-7 damage. So,
All right, let's start off with the equipment here. Go ahead.
All right, first up, we've got Heirloom of Snakehide. This is a Mystic Assassin equipment chest. At rare, it defends for 2, has Battle Worn and Cloaked, so it's going to start the game face down, and says, while this is equipped face down, at the start of your turn, if you have exactly 1 life, you may turn this face up.
Okay. Person who has played the Blitz decks, how hard is it to manipulate your life total to turn on Cloaked equipment? Because your opponent's aware that if you go to 1, you're going to be flipping some shit, most likely.
So you want to talk about this first before you give your grade?
I already gave my grade. It was an A-. I thought this card was really, really good because it is effectively block 3. I mean, that's insane.
Because. So I think 1 is now a breakpoint in this set, right? Because there's 4 of these cards. There's 3 rares for each hero. And then there's also a Mystic one, which we'll get to. I think might be the most powerful, honestly. I think this card, I didn't flip mine up in any of the games I played.
Oh, very interesting. And you were playing Enigma, right? So someone who has access to things like Ward. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I did absolutely destroy Dan those last 2 games. Didn't get anywhere near 1 life. But I think it is. I think it is quite hard to. So one thing is, 1's a breakpoint. It is hard to sometimes go to exactly 1 life, especially if your opponent is kind of somewhat playing around that with the way they are positioning their attacks and sending attacks your way to make sure that maybe you can only go to 2, for instance, or it's going to be really hard for you to go to 1. And then even if you do go to 1, the value of that Battle Worn, it's going to be really hard to get the 3rd value out of it, I think, because you're going to be at 1 life. It's probably going to be a salve for 2 life, and then hopefully you're going to be able to win the game. Otherwise, you're at 1 life and you're going to be potentially in some trouble in terms of winning the game. I think these cards are good, but I think they're a little bit awkward. They don't have value until the very end of the game. They don't give you the kind of value of being able to fridge something, especially on hits, like key on hits, at different points of the game until you're on 1 life. And when you're at 1 life, on hits don't matter, right? And what you often want your fridge for is off on hits. So I have this as a C+.
Very interesting. It does make sense now. So when you point out the lack of flexibility, the inflexibility of this card compared to traditional Flesh and Blood equipment, because it can only be utilized at a very specific point in the game, the power level evaluation does go down significantly.
Yeah, I was trying to compare this to something else. I was thinking about, some of the equipment from Tales of Aria, right? That had really specific kind of ways you had to activate them. So like Runaways, for instance. Do you remember Runaways as the boots that
you'd take damage and then you could prevent 1 or something like that?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that in a way. Like that equipment was like fine, right? But it was quite bad in some context because of the fact you take damage first, right?
Yeah, I don't think you were ever excited to have Runaways. It was just like whatever. There was plenty of games where you just didn't get activated. It's very possible.
Yeah, especially against Guardian. Well, the equipment in that set was quite weak, except for the really powerful ones like Plume.
Yeah,
But anyway,
and Deep
all
Blue
that to say-
activated instant speed in the calling final.
that was broken. Yeah, look, I could be wrong on this, right? And it could be as high as maybe in the B range. I can't see it being in the A range because of just the specific nature of it and the kind of narrow. So I have this at C+ currently. From it.
All right. Next up, we have Arousing Wave Mystic Assassin Equipment Arms. Defense for 1. It says attack reaction, 1 resource. Destroy this. Create a Fangs Strike in your hand. And it has Battle Worn. I put a B for this. So this is not clicked. I mean, this is not clicked. But I do think being able to create that Fangs Strike on demand does seem very good. There's another one coming up that I like a little bit more. But equipment is really interesting to rate in Flesh and Blood because it's all about what it competes with, right? Sometimes equipment is like, there's some sets where you can only have equipment in A because it's just like there is nothing except these 5 pieces really reasonably. But yeah, I decided to put B for this.
Yeah, I think I'm on board. I think I'm like a B- B on this card. I think basically there's some cards we're going to get to where you need to play 2 attack reacts on them to get an effect. One in particular I think is maybe one of the strongest cards in the set.
Mm-hmm.
And to pay the resource, 1 resource to get both of those. So you get the first react because the activation is an attack react. And then you play the Fang Strike to get that +1. You've played your 2 reacts. You get the effect of that. The other thing as well is that Fang Strike on demand is always a threat of activation to push an on-hit over the top. And that's another really powerful thing. And then I think that gets me to a B-. And then what I think gets me to a B is the fact this is Battle Worn. You get the block in first, you use it up. Maybe it's on a mirror match where you use it on another Beckoning Blade. Maybe it's on an on-hit for Ninja. Maybe it's just value against Enigma, for instance. And then you get to do it afterwards. Yeah, I think I have this as a B as well.
Yep. All right. Next one. I actually heard that you modeled for this card.
I did. Yeah, I did. How did you know? Undertow Stilettos. This is a Mystic Assassin Equipment. Legs has 1 defense. It is also Battle Worn. It is another attack reaction, 1 resource. Destroy this. Create a slither in your hand. So it's exactly the same as Arousing Wave, except it creates a slither and it's at legs. So do you think this is the same, better, or worse than Arousing Wave?
I thought this was better. Because I thought that Slither was better. So there are some cards that are absolutely busted with a double react, right? Like they get an insane amount more of attack value. Like there's some crazy cards. But I did think that Slither was more powerful than Fang Strike.
From my experience so far, I have them about the same. I thought the same as well. I thought Slither was going to be the better of the 2. I have them about the same. And the reason for that is that the on-hit effects with the stealth, especially the ones that can banish 2 cards, are really, really powerful, I think. Those are what's going to fuel your in-game for new. And that in-game, I might be overstating the in-game, right? I've only played a few games, with like the Blitz decks. I haven't played Limited, right? This is a lot of speculation at this point. That in-game might not be as easy to attain, and I'm not saying it is easy to attain, but it might not be as always relevant every single game for new. So maybe the Slither is just better, but I have them around the same at the moment currently. But I do think, if I wouldn't be surprised if Slither edges it and this was a B+, for instance. I'm guessing that's where you have it.
Yep. All right. So next one is Tide Chakra. This is a Mystic Assassin attack reaction. We're looking at the red. We'll be looking at red for everything. It is a 1 cost, blocks for 3, and says target assassin or mystic attack action card gets +3. If you transcended this turn, it gets +5. So potential 1 for 5. Hayden, how hard is it to, how reasonable do you think it will be to be triggering Transcend in a game of Limited?
It's harder than you think, especially when you're playing red cards, because you have to have effectively played your Transcend card and another blue card. So you're already at 3 cards, plus the card pitched, unless you're going to pitch your Chakra. Pitch your Inner Chi. So then you're at 4 cards, plus you need an attack, so you're at 5 cards. So it's harder than you think to trigger Tide Chakra, I think. All that said, it's a +3 minimum for 1 that also blocks 3 as an attack react. I think the blue is also really good.
Interesting.
The yellow is fine, probably, but I think the blue, because I think you want good blues in your deck, especially things that you can use late game. So I have this. I think this is a B+. I think this card is really good.
I had a B-, which is honestly is pretty high for us. I think if someone would send any critique our way, they would say sometimes we rate entire sets C's, but that's Flesh and Blood, baby. Flesh and Blood is a bunch of C's.
So true. How many A's do you have in this?
I don't know, less than 5 for sure.
Yeah,
Less
definitely.
than 5. But that's good.
Yeah, let's call it B in the middle, I think. Because it is going to be harder than you think to activate this. But when you do, the ceiling on this card is so high.
Yeah, but the floor is high too. That's what I like. The floor is pretty reasonable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I had it B+. Next up, we have Hiss. This is a Mystic Assassin attack reaction at common, defense for 3, cost 1. We're looking at the red one here. It says target Assassin or Mystic attack action card gets +3 attack. If you've pitched a blue card this turn, create a slither in your hand. So you're going to be basically always pitching blue to play this. Otherwise, you're probably just going to sit in Arsenal. So you can basically read this as, because you want a lot of blues in your deck. We'll get to that next week when we talk about kind of breakdowns. But roughly in new, I'm thinking you probably want 30 cards, probably like 14 to 16 blues in your deck. So basically, you can read this as +3 attack and create a slither,
which
for
is
1
busted.
resource.
That's busted.
And it also blocks 3.
That's busted. Yeah, so I have a B, but I could be sold higher on that, to be honest.
No, I have a B.
You level it at a B. It's crazy though. +3 go again. It's like, and you're triggering double attack reaction.
Yeah,
wild.
Or you can just hold the slither for a future turn.
Yeah,
if you want to. As well.
I mean, just wild. Absolutely crazy. All right.
Yeah, I think this is B at red, and then sort of B- C+ territory for the other colors. But okay, this is what I want to talk about. This is where the yellow, for instance, is strong. The yellows that are good, yeah. You want to look for the strong yellows, I think, because we're going to hear some bad yellows soon. But I think particularly cards like this, because of just the powerful effect, that slither is always there. You just go down and damage. I'm going to talk about scaling a lot in this, I think. The scaling is damage-based, so you're going to go down to 2 attack for a yellow, but you're still going to get the slither. And the value of that is obviously quite high. So I think the yellows that scale poorly are bad, and the yellows that scale a bit better are better yellows, generally.
All right, next one is Intimate Inducement. Mystic attack reaction. It costs 0. We're looking at the red. Blocks for 3. It says target assassin or mystic attack action card gets +1. And it says look at the top 4 cards of defending hero's deck and choose a card. If it is blue and has 0 base defense, put chosen card active onto the active chain link as a defending card, and the rest on top in any order. What do you think?
So basically, it's giving you the option to pull a card from your opponent's deck, put that onto the defense so that you can banish it and then have it for later on, right? Reasonable effect. Couldn't have written this better, Brendan. This does show the scaling I was just talking about, though. Whether this is red, yellow, or blue, it gives +1 attack. But as the scaling is going to be 4 cards for red that you look at, 3 for yellow, 2 for blue. So I think that the blue is the best card of this by a mile, because the damage is still there and the scaling is on something that's fine, but often you're wanting to use that +1 to push over damage, to push an on-hit effect, rather than necessarily banishing a blue card, right?
Yeah. I had a C for this, actually.
Yeah, I have C as well.
Okay. Yeah, a whole bunch of C's.
Yeah, I think this card's fine, but next up we have Venomous Bite. This is a Mystic Assassin attack reaction at common, defense of 3, cost 1. We're looking at the red again. It says target assassin or mystic attack action card gets +3 attack. If you've pitched a blue card this turn, create a Fang Strike in your hand. So literally this is Hiss, except that you get a Fang Strike.
I think it's still pretty good. I mean, it's so funny that like triggering double attack react is actually relevant. We'll talk about those cards eventually.
Yeah, it's not. To be fair, I think we want to be clear. There's only a few cards that care about that.
Yeah, but those cards are pretty crazy. If you can do it, I think you can do consistently.
But that's why I think the wave is really good, because it's always, starts in play, stays in play, right? Like it's always there as a threat of activation, as an option to push that.
Sure.
Whereas this, you kind of have to line up, right? So I think in this case, for instance, like I think Hiss is a reasonable amount better than Venomous Bite as compared to the arms versus the legs equipment.
I had a C+ for Venomous Bite.
Yeah, me too. I'm a C+.
Okay, you need to start. We need to start. This is too congruent. All right, we're gonna head into
butter, baby.
We're gonna head into the assassin cards now. We're gonna start off with Art of Desire Body. Assassin attack action, attacks for 3, blocks for 3, costs 0. Always looking at the red. Says stealth, and says when this is a hero, banish the top card of their deck. Whenever this banishes a red card, draw a card and gain 1. I don't know. I put a B-. I thought that it was crazy. So the thing is like, I was reading a lot because a lot of these cards are very similar. I was like, okay, what is the likelihood that this is actually going to happen? And then how good is the payoff? The payoff is like really, really good here. And everybody's going to have reds on their deck. Like actually everybody. I don't know if it'll be the main color in the deck, but it just seems like if you're banishing, I don't know, when you're drawing a card and gaining a life, it just seems like such a payoff. It's insane.
So this is one of the things that's really important to know here. And this is where we're going to talk about some yellows. These are one of the naming conventions where the cards at each of the colors have different names because they have different text on them. So Art of Desire Body cares about red cards. Art of Desire Soul, which is the yellow version of this, cares about yellow cards. You have to banish yellow cards to get the effect. And Blue cares about blue cards. I think the gaining a life is kind of whatever,
Well, it
honestly.
just makes it a 0 for 4. I mean,
yeah, but
that's
not
good. It's not nothing. I
but
know
not in
the
the good
game
way,
life is
because-
not that good, but it's good.
It's good. It's fine. But I think it's worth noting that I think the yellow is significantly worse than the other two here. I think
For sure.
The blue and the red are good. So what did you have this at?
I had it at a C+/B-.
Okay, I'm at a C. I think it's a solid C. I think this is going to be bread and butter of your.
Yeah, I think I have
assassin.
C
You
for
need
like
some good
almost
stuff.
every other assassin card, but we'll move forward.
Well, they're bread and butter.
Yeah, they're
All
kind
the
of
power cards are
similar.
the mystic cards.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got Bonds of Attraction. This is another assassin attack action. Rare. It costs 0, attacks a 3, defends a 3, has stealth, and says when this hits a hero, banish the top card of the deck, then banish a card from their graveyard. Whenever this banishes a card, if this has banished another card with the same color, gain 1 life. I think this card's really good.
Okay.
I think basically
Because
these
the
cards that
banishing is so powerful, right?
can banish 2 cards, and ideally you're trying to banish 2 blue cards, right? You're going to gain a life from that. But even if you don't, banishing 2 cards is that's really good. Like, you're taking a card off the top of the deck. There's a chance it's a blue and you can better use it later on, but then you're getting to target a card from the graveyard. Like, more so than the banish off the top of the deck, the banishing a card from the graveyard is really, really powerful. Because people are going to be forced to block with blues at some point. And then you're going to be, and they're going to do it. Their best blues, they're not going to block them on your stealth cards because then they get banished, right? They're going to block them on your weapon or on your generic attacks or your mystic non-stealth attacks, for instance, right? So I think I have this at a B. I think this card is very high pick.
I had a C, but I mean, I didn't really take into account how powerful this is off of this is the part where gameplay context adds a lot, right? And if you've actually played with the new decks, it adds a lot to it. All right, next up is Double Trouble. This is Assassin attack action, attacks for 3, blocks for 3, costs 0 stealth. If you played or activated 2 or more attack reactions with this chain link, this gets +2, and when this hits a hero, banish the top 2 cards of their deck. I mean, come on. This is like everything we've been talking about.
Give me an A.
Yeah. Do you have an A? I did B+, but again, I
got an A.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, the card seems crazy.
This is the card that I'm going to open in a pack of Flesh and Blood and be like, okay, I'm going to hedge on this and I'm going to draft. And if I end up in Assassin, I've got the best card in Assassin, I think, to power my deck. I think that the key thing, right, is that this can be a 0 for 5, which is insane in itself, right? But not only that, banishing the top 2 cards. We've talked about mill, how relevant that's going to be. I think, that's important. But potentially, at that point, most decks are going to have around 40 to 60% of the deck being blues. So at that point, you're looking at, around a 50% hit rate for hitting a blue off the top of the deck in one of these 2 cards. I think that's really good. I think this card is like one of the most powerful cards in the set, I think.
All right. Next up.
I like it at all colors, by the way. Again, another one where the yellow scales well, so a good yellow to take.
For sure.
Next up, we have Bonds of Memory. This is an assassin action attack at common. We're into the commons now. It attacks for 3 and defends for 3 at red. We are looking at the red, of course. It costs 0, has stealth, and says when this hits a hero, banish the top card of the deck, then banish a card from the graveyard. Whenever this banishes a card, if it has banished another card with the same name, gain 1 life. I mean, that last bit of text is kind of
not gonna happen.
It's just a bit of extra frosting on the cake, right? But again, I think this ability to banish a card from a graveyard and a card from the top of the deck, specifically that card from graveyard, I think is really powerful. So I got this a B still, again, as well. Same as
I have a C,
Bonds.
but this is again like I'm out of the loop of how powerful it is to banish 2 cards versus 1 in something like new, because it seems strong, but I mean, it sounds like you've witnessed the strength.
I think the targeted ability of a graveyard is what's really powerful, more than 2 cards. 2 cards is secondary. I think it's like graveyard targeted hit, secondary 2 cards, and then the third thing is the gain a life function. And then also these cards block for 3. They're just always going to be good.
Yeah. All right, next up is
again, good at all colors.
Yeah. Next up is Desires of Flesh. Assassin attack action. Attacks for 3, blocks for 3, costs 0, stealth. When this is a hero, banish the top card of their deck. When this banishes an attack action card, gain 1 life. Okay, so this has to be a role player. This has to be a C.
Yeah, I think this is a straight C.
Okay.
Yeah, agree.
Okay.
Next up is Impulsive Desire. One thing I actually want to note on this, just Desires of Flesh and then Impulsive Desire and then Mind's Desire, which we're about to talk through. I think all of these probably get half a grade bump into the relevant matchup. For instance, this one cares about attack actions, so I think against Ninja, this is probably like a C+, maybe, for instance. Anyway, Impulsive Desire is an assassin action attack at common, attacks a 3, defends a 3, costs 0, has stealth. It says when this hits a hero, banish the top card of the deck. Whenever this banishes a reaction or instant card, gain 1 life. So this one, for instance, is better against Enigma, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to an extent, new as well because of the reaction. But I think this is a solid C.
Yep.
We're into the role players here.
Yes, we are. Next one is Mind's Desire, Assassin attack action. Attacks for 3, blocks for 3, costs 0, stealth. When this is a hero, banish the top card of their deck. Whenever this banishes a non-attack action, gain 1 life.
So the same as Impulsive Desires, but now it cares about non-attack action cards.
Non-attack? I think it's the worst. Yeah, I had C-.
I think it's the worst. I think it's a C-. Yeah, I think this is the worst of the lot. Yeah, I agree. Next up, Pick to Pieces. This is an assassin action attack at common. Attacks with 3, defense with 3, is a cycle. Costs 0. Stealth. If you've played or activated an attack reaction, this chain link, this gets +1, and damage that would be dealt by this can't be prevented.
Pretty good versus ward.
Pretty good against ward. That does blow up all the ward. That is how that works.
Wait, so it blows up all the... So it doesn't just subvert it and not trigger the... So it triggers the ward and it doesn't block?
Yeah, I think that's still how that works. That's how it used to work.
That probably is how it works. I just didn't think about that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's how it used to work. I should probably check that that's still how it works, that they haven't errated anything. Drop it down in the comments and we'll make a note of that next week if that has changed, if I have missed something. But that is always how prevention effects have worked, because they proc the ward effect and then damage can't be prevented. And then one damage is still coming through, procs the next ward effect, damage can't be prevented, procs the next effect, so on and so on. I think this card is
toxic versus Enigma. That seems terrible. Oh my god.
Yeah, I think this is a great card. I think this is a B+ against Enigma, and otherwise I think it's still a B- C+ because it gets +1 just from playing a reaction, so it becomes a 0 for 4. So probably a B- in that case. So I think overall this nets out to be a B, I think.
Yeah, I had B-, but I didn't think about it blowing up all the ward and not trigger not being blocked by it. That's just ridiculous.
Do you know my note on this? I just said, bye-bye, Enigma.
Yeah, no kidding. That's
it also forces blocks, right? Because if your wards are being threatened, then Enigma has to commit to putting cards in front of this to block, which you're then going to banish because it says stealth.
Yeah.
So I think it's...
Well, speaking of Enigma, is
Assassin Done.
Yeah, Assassin Done is a Mystic Illusionist hero. It has 4 intellect, 20 life, and it says your first spectral shield attack each turn costs 1 less to activate. It also says once per turn, instant 3 chi, not tree. Create a spectral shield token with a +1 counter, which is relevant because the weapon, Cosmo, Scroll of Ancestral Tapestry, Illusionist weapon, scroll, 2-hander. 2 hands for a scroll. During your turn, ors you control with ward are weapons with base attack equal to their ward and have once per turn action 1 resource attack. Your aura attacks with 1 or more +1 counters get go again. That's going to be a very relevant text right there.
Yeah, it's always the Illusionist thing, right? If the weapon and the hero go hand in hand synergistically generally, right? So you kind of need to look at them together. Your first spectral shield is going to cost you 1 less with Enigma, and then, they generally, anything with ward costs 1 to attack. So you get the first one for free if it's a shield, and then of course if you have +1 counters, things you get go again. So what do you want? Well, you want spectral shields, you want good ward that attacks for good damage and has +1 counters on it so that you can go wide, is in theory what you want. A little more complicated than that. I think my main note on Enigma, just up front, is don't be afraid to let your wards go sometimes. You can't protect them all. Sometimes you just got to let them soak up the damage, soak up the on-hits, and then create another board or push more damage, for instance. So what's a spectral shield, Brendan?
Well, spectral shield has just been errated, so it says ward 1.
Yep.
Yep, we talked about it last week too. All right, first equipment here. We have Heirloom of Rabbit Hide, Mystic Illusionist equipment, chest at rare, cloaked. Equip this face down. While this is equipped face down, at the start of your turn, if you have exactly 1 life, flip this face up, then it has ward 4. That's a lot of ward right there. But
That's a lot of ward.
You've changed my mind on cloaked. I had an A-, but now I don't feel confident anymore. You've shaken my confidence.
I have a C+ on this as well. I mean, I think this one is... I don't know. I think it's about the same because so we were talking before about, are you going to get the the Battle Worn to be able to get 3 value out of it? I don't know. That's kind of tough. Ward 4 might be the same. Are you actually going to get 4 value out of it when your opponent only needs to deal you 1 more damage, for instance? Maybe. Again, all the same things as before about 1 bring a breakpoint and when this is relevant. This might be slightly better than the Assassin one. Maybe this is B- in some world. I haven't seen it yet, and the more I think about it, the more I think these cards are a little bit of a trap. Like these sort of cards people are going to open early on and be like, oh, these are insane. You know, that says 4 on it, it prevents 4 damage. But that's not always going to be the case. Sometimes it's going to be hard to flip up, or you're going to have to get into awkward spots to flip them up. And then sometimes it's only going to prevent 1 or 2 damage because of the attacks your opponent are coming in with. So.
Yeah, imagine being the Timmy that thinks this is good. All right. Next one,
it's true stuff, right?
Nah. Truth Retold, Mystic Illusionist equipment. Head at common, has cloaked, instant, 1 resource. Turn this face up. Put an aura from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck. And it has ward 1. I had a C+ for this.
Yeah, I have a C for this, but C+ area I think is correct. The ward is relevant, like instant speed ward is really good. Being able to put your most powerful aura back to the bottom of your deck is really good. You can put a blue aura to the bottom of your deck to protect from no, but I actually don't think it's relevant because they can't use the auras that well anyway. One thing that's relevant and is worth noting is that there's some cards we're going to talk about that get buffs from having pitched blue cards this turn. And one of the ways that you can kind of trigger that is pitching a blue to something like this to activate the ability, getting the ward 1 on this as well, plus tucking something under on the bottom of your deck, and then also having a blue in your pitch zone. And 1 resource I think is a really good cost in this format because there's a lot of 2s, and I think you want good 2s, and I think you want 1s to go along with that, especially for Mystic, for Enigma. Sorry, we'll talk about. Next up, we've got Uphold Tradition. This is a Mystic Illusionist equipment arms, has no defensive value. It is cloaked. It has instant, 1 resource, turn this face up, put a +1 counter on an aura you control with ward, and it has ward 1. So important to note, you can't attack with these ward equipment. Just to note, because they're not auras. Just worth noting.
I had a B/B- because I do think that the +1 counter will be very relevant.
This guy knows what's up. I have B+. I might be too high on this. It might be a B, but I think this is really powerful. I think it's actually quite hard to get +1 counters on your auras, especially in a way that's quite favorable to the way that you want to play the game at that given point in time. It also has ward 1, and also there's a lot of auras that don't actually have go again. They're not instant. So the instant auras I think are really good, but obviously they don't block, so you can't fill your deck with those. You do need some of these auras that block as well. And then I think you do need some ways to be able to put some counters on them, or put counters on the instant ones to go wide on a really big turn and push damage. So yeah, I think this card is like really high priority pick.
All right, next up, we have Moon Chakra. This is a Mystic Illusionist instant. Doesn't defend for anything because it's an instant. It costs 0. Always looking at the red again. The next time you would be dealt damage, prevent 3 of the damage. If you transcended, instead prevent 5.
I think it's easier to transcend generally in Enigma because you can do stuff at instant speed really well. You want to play. I think you want to play the most blues of any of the heroes, slightly more than you, a decent amount more than Zen. So I think this is the easiest one to trigger. That being said, I think the ceiling on it is maybe not as high, preventing 5 damage. Sometimes you're not going to be in a spot to actually prevent a full 5 damage because of the attacks they're coming in with. But the floor is reasonable to prevent 3 damage, especially at red. So I think the red is like a C+, maybe B-. The blue is also somewhere around that as well. I think when we talk about scaling, I think the yellow is one of the worst because it's not a blue and it doesn't have the red upside.
Mm-hmm. I had a B-.
Okay, fair enough. Next up is Haze Shelter. This is a Mystic Illusionist instant aura. Cost 2, has no defensive value. We're looking at the red one here. It says Ward X, where X is 4 if you've pitched a blue card this turn. Otherwise, X is 1, and yellow is going to be 3, blue is going to be 2. This is what I was talking about before. If you have a blue card in your pitch zone, then this has a really great effect, and if you don't, then it's Ward 1, right? So I think this card is really good, though.
Interesting. Okay, I had a C, and I said, from my notes, I said, this one confuses me. So
yeah, fair, right? So like on the surface, you're like, well, when this is down, it's bad, right? But actually, you play a lot in your opponent's turn, I think, especially with... I think it's going to be contextual, because some decks you might not have enough instants. You might not be able to play well enough in your opponent's turn, and you don't want to just pitch a blue to something like the equipment and then have 2 resources that do nothing. But one of the lines I quite like is having something like a Haste Shelter in play, pitching a blue to one of your equipment, like we just talked about, to flip it up. Get the Ward 4 off Haste Shelter, take a little bit of damage, and then at the end of turn, play another instant aura that costs 2. Something maybe like another Haste Shelter, for instance, or there's more coming up. So that on your turn, you can come in with some damage off maybe the other 2 cards left in your hand, for instance. So I have the red at like a B-, and I think the rest are like Cs.
Imagine playing not Enigma. Like, Enigma is just so much cooler than the other fucking... sorry.
I agree.
Yeah, it's so much cooler than the other heroes. Like, it just...
I agree.
It's like so wizard-esque. Anyway, next up is Waning Vengeance. Is a Mystic Illusionist instant aura, no defensive value, costs 1. Says when this leaves the arena, if you've pitched a blue card this turn, create a Spectral Shield token and has Ward 3.
Yeah. Ward 2 at yellow, Ward 1 at blue. This is, I think red is somewhere around a C+, maybe B- in some decks, especially the first 1 or 2 of this card. I really like this card because I think, again, 1 resource cost is an important cost point. And the fact that this can give you a Spectral Shield to hang around afterwards that you can still, attack with on your turn for free, even if you have no cards in hand, which is relevant, right? With the hero ability. The hero ability plus the Enigma weapon. I think this card's just good, solid card that you want above the kind of general average.
Okay. I had a C for this.
Next up is Waxing Spectre. This is a Mystic Illusionist instant aura, cost 2, doesn't defend, of course. It says if you pitched a blue card this turn, this enters the arena with a +1 counter on it, has Ward 3. This is a common, and we're looking at the red again.
And B-.
Yeah, I have red at B- and the rest at Cs. So +1 counters are hard to come by. So the auras that do give you +1 counters are going to be important. And what you want is the biggest ward with a counter. You don't want... So there's going to be some cards where there's like carries a Spectral Shield and you get like +3 counters, for instance. But then, yes, that comes in for 4, but then it only defends 1 on the way back. So let's say you get 1 turn cycle, but that's 5 value. This is representing 7 value over a turn cycle, right? Because it comes in for 4 and then it defends for 3. So that's more what you want. And if you look at this as a 2 cost 7 in that kind of way, almost, maybe it's a bit cheeky of a way to look at it. Doesn't defend, obviously, but does get you that ward value on the way back. That's really good. So I think this is the kind of power card I want a couple of in my deck to help me fuel my plan.
All right.
Also,
on
2 cost 7 with go again.
Yeah, very good. On to Illusionist. Astral Etchings. Illusionist action. Defense for 3, cost 1. Says put 3 +1 counters on target aura with ward you control. If you control a Spectral Shield, you may play this as though it were an instant. Seems fire. I don't know.
I really don't know on this card. I think I can't tell. I can't tell if this card is going to be amazing and it's going to be Prismatic Shield like, or this card's going to be awkward and trash most of the time.
I had to be modest. I was thinking closer to Prismatic Shield, but yeah.
So I was trying to break this down, right? It's like, okay, so if you don't control Spectral Shield, then you can't play this at instant speed, right? So that's already means this card is, I think, unplayable if you don't have a Spectral Shield out, because you're going to use your action point to put 3 counters on something, then end your turn. I think that at that point, this is a blocking card, which is fine. If you do have a Spectral Shield out, though, then okay, it gives you 1 for +3. How often are you going to be able to keep that Spectral Shield alive on the next turn to then be able to come in with it again? I think that's the Prismatic Shield element of it, right? I think it's harder to protect shields than it was in Monarch. Especially in Enigma, where there's a lot of cards that don't block, and you have to pay resources to play out wards, which puts you down on average defensive value of a hand. But this is also a combat trick. It's going to potentially kill your opponent at some points. It still does block 3. I think the first red might be an A in some decks, and sometimes it's going to be a C.
Yeah, usually I'm not a huge. Yeah, these combat trick S kind of cards. Just reminds me a little bit of it was Glisten.
Yeah,
That card also
some
cost
people thought
4.
the card was
I thought
insane.
that card was absolute dog shit. I was like,
I didn't really like that card, but some people thought it was insane. So I think I think that's a good apt comparison, honestly. I think the blue is actually just pretty solid, though, and probably in the C range. So, yeah. Next up, we have Essence of Ancestry Body. So this is another card where the naming convention changes because of the effect, which we'll read. So it's a rare Illusionist action aura, cost 0, defense for 3. It says, when this leaves the arena, if you control no Illusionist auras, the next time you'll be dealt damage by a red source this turn, prevent it, and has ward 2. So the yellow one's going to say yellow, the blue one's going to say blue, but they all have ward 2. So I think the blue of this is good. I think this is a good blue that you want. It's probably a C+ range. I think the red is maybe okay in the right matchups because you can just play it and then pass your turn, and it's potentially going to protect you from a lot of damage, especially against things like Ninja.
Mhm.
But I think the yellow is like a D. I think the yellow is so bad. This is one of those ones where the scaling doesn't sit where you want it to. But yeah, that's kind of
I just see for this. It's a funky card though.
I think one thing that's really important to note with these is these auras now that we're getting into, they don't have go again. They're not instant.
Yep.
They take a reaction point. So the red one, if this is going to prevent ward 2, so maybe it prevents 1 or 2 damage, and then it also prevents 3 or 4 from a red card. It's a 1 card 4 to 6. That's really good, right? Even for your action point. But if it's not doing that, the cards are really awkward. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's worth bearing in mind.
Next up, we have Haunting Spectres, Illusionist action aura. At rare, blocks for 2. How much does this cost? Sorry, it is so blurry.
2, cost 2.
Cost 2. It says, when this leaves the arena, create a Spectral Shield token. Then if you control no other Illusionist auras, put a +1 counter on it, and it has ward 4.
Mm-hmm. So again, no go again, right? So you can't, and that's really important, you can't attack with these the turn that you play them. They're not instant, they don't have go again, etc. But it's a 2 cost, prevent 4, potentially make you another 2 damage that then can save you a resource, a life point on the following turn. So you could equate that to another 2 for 7, potentially. But I think it's a worse way of having 2 for 7 than the card we talked about previously, the Waxing Spectre. And so if we're Waxing Spectre at a B, even though this blocks 2, I think I've got to have this at like a B- C+.
Mm-hmm. I had it at B-.
Yeah. Okay. We're aligning here. Next up is Single-Minded Determination. This is Illusionist action aura at common now. Defense of 3, cost 2. It says, when this enters the arena, if you control no other Illusionist auras, put 3 +1 counters on this, and it has ward 2. The yellow is going to give you 2 counters. The blue is going to give you 1 counter. Again, no go again, right? So this is one of the things I was talking about before, where the ward is low, right? And you want high ward, lower counters. This is low ward, higher counters. So yeah, it threatens 5 damage, but you can't attack with it the turn that you play it. Most of the time, there is a card we can get you that can allow you to do that, but most of the time, you're not going to be able to play it the turn that you get it. And then you're sitting there with a ward 2 that's quite vulnerable, and you have to try and protect it. And I just think that's really hard to protect auras so far in this format, has been my view. I could be wrong. This card could be better for it, but I think with what I've seen so far in mind, I think this is like a C.
I'd C-.
Yeah, so you're on board that as well.
Yep, next up is Solitary Companion. Illusionist action aura, blocks for 2. Cost 0, and says, when this enters the arena, if you control no other Illusionist auras, create a Spectral Shield token, and has ward 3. No go again.
So this card I'm way more keen on because it's a 1 card, doesn't cost you resources to play it, even though it's going to take your action. It has a higher ward count, and it potentially creates you a Spectral Shield as well, which diversifies your wards that you have on board and then potentially leaves you with a way to have something on your next turn. So I'm way more keen on this card. I think even though it defends for 2 and doesn't defend for 3, I think I have this like a C+ kind of range.
I had B- on this.
Yeah. You might even be right. That like I think this card is good. It's a much better kind of thing that I want to be playing than those other cards. Next up, we have Spectral Manifestations. This is an Illusionist action at common, defense for 2, cost 2, says create a Spectral Shield token. Then if you control no other Illusionist auras, put 3 +1 counters on it. Go again. Yellow's going to give you 2. Blue's going to give you 1. Here's the exception to this low ward, high counters thing. This says low ward and high counters, but it creates a Spectral Shield, and this card says go again. Yeah, and that's really important.
I had B for this card.
Yeah, I have a B for this as well. I think this is good, and I think this is good at all colors as well. Yeah, I mean, obviously the yellow is the worst, I think, but it's generally good at all colors. I think it's good.
All right, next up we have Vengeful Apparition. Illusionist attack. Yeah. I knew the word apparition, but I read it. I was like, apparition? Anyway, Illusionist action aura blocks for 3, costs 0. It says when this leaves the arena, if you control no Illusionist auras, you may play your next aura with cost 2 or less, as though it were an instant. If you do, it enters the arena with a +1 counter on. This has ward 1. Weird card.
We talked about a bunch of these auras where you can't play them at instant speed, you can't attack with them on the turn you play them. This is the one card that can allow you to potentially do that, right? So I think on the face value of it, ward 1, defense 3, cost 0, you basically don't really ever want to play this card a lot of the time. But potentially what you can do is you play this, pass the turn, you arsenal an aura that doesn't have go again, and then when this dies, you get to play it, right? So when this leaves your control no one's or even play your next aura with cost 2 less turns or instant. Yeah, and then it gets +1 counter. So let's say we arsenaled, I don't know, single-minded determination, right? This comes in with, it's ward 2, gets 3 +1 counters on it because you let this die last. Then it gets another one from Vengeful Apparition, then you get to attack with it for 6 on your next turn. I think there's uses for this card, but I'm generally lower on cards that require specific synergies to work well. I think in Flesh and Blood, they're never as good as they seem. I think you've probably experienced that as well, right, Brendan? They always seem a little bit good, and then you get there and they're a little bit trapped.
I'm a hoop jumper hater. I hate jump through.
Yeah,
hoops.
I know you are.
Yeah.
So I imagine you have this like a C- or D.
Yeah, I had it at a C. But I could be super wrong about this card.
I think it's a build around. I think that I'm going to get out my build around grade or my setup grade. I'm going to give this especially at red, I think like a B setup. Otherwise, I'm giving the red like a C to D. And then I think the blue is just a solid like C. It does block for 3, which I think is really good.
All right. That concludes Illusionist. All right. On to Zen, which is our ninja of the set, our mystic ninja hero. It has 4 intellect, 20 life. It says once per turn, 3 chi. God damn it, tree.
Doing it.
Create a crouching tiger in your hand, search your deck for a card with combo, banish it, and then shuffle. You may play it this turn. And his accompanying weapon is the tiger taming Kakara. And it is a ninja weapon staff 2-hander. It attacks for 2. And it says once per turn action, 2 resources attack Gogan. When this attacks your next crouching tiger you play, this combat chain gets +1 attack.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to get into this, but some of the important things to know with Zen is there's going to be cards that want you to have played Crouching Tigers. Mm-hmm. So Crouching Tigers by themselves have no value, right, basically. So you're requiring other cards to give a Crouching Tiger value because they attack for 0. So Kakara, obviously inbuilt a little bit, but a 2 resources for a 2 damage attack is generally going to be pretty bad, although I think in the set actually is kind of fine. And then if you're getting to 3 with it, it's good. The cool thing about this as well is that it gives you the 3 damage spread over 2 cards. So it gives you a 2 and a 1, and that's really good against Ward in particular, I think, as well. So I think, yeah, but basically, I think it's worth talking about before we get into Zen some more.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about the tokens too, just so people remember. Crouching Tiger, it is ephemeral. It has go again, attacks for 0, pitches for nothing, costs 0 as well. And then we have the Zen State token, which will also be relevant.
I don't think we need to talk about this. I don't think there's any commons or rares that
it's all Majestics? Okay.
I think so. Yeah, so we can just skip past it into it.
Yeah. What are your initial thoughts on Zen specifically?
Zen State or Zen?
No, Zen.
I think basically what I just said. You're looking for. I think this is going to be the most straightforward deck to look at your pile and be like, do I have a Zen deck here? And what you're looking for is some good ways to make Crouching Tigers and some good payoff cards. You need good damage with Zen, I think, because yes, you have this weapon, but I don't think you have as much late game inevitability as the other 2 heroes. You don't have as much Snowball as Enigma, and then not as much late game as New. So you're looking for a very sort of like specific set of cards. But I think if you have those, it's a lot more straightforward and easy to play. And I think Zen's ability, this Chi ability to create a Crouching Tiger in your hand and then search your deck for a card with combo, is good. I think it's probably the second best. I think Enigma's is the kind of the worst of the 3 abilities, honestly. I think worth talking about with Enigma, often activating that ability as a trap as opposed to just pitching and developing your board or playing some attacks.
Interesting. All right. Yeah. Well, on to our first card.
Can we start?
Yep, that's Heirloom of Tiger Hide. This is a Mystic and Ninja Equipment chest. Blocks are 3. It says Cloaked. Well, it says equipped face down. If you have exactly 1 life, you may turn it face up and has Blade Break. So If it defended, you destroy it and it blocks for 3. I had A-, but yep, I know. Cloak doesn't...
But you could be right.
At least
right?
I'm saying the things that I put down. Maybe I'm
overthinking it. I have this at a C. I think I have this one as the lowest one.
You sold me. You told me, you said that. It's not that I'm changing it because you don't have it. I heard you point out that... So the thing is like I said, I'm a hoop jumping hater.
Yeah. So I appealed to you with my words.
One life is a fucking hoop. Like, that's a serious hoop. I think you can get a lot of value, like 3 defensive values, like pretty crazy. But yeah, the fact, like, if you just think about equipment in Flesh and Blood, for all the other times you played Flesh and Blood, the flexibility of that equipment is really important. And we value high defensive equipment extremely highly in Flesh and Blood, but think about when you're blocking with those. Like, you're blocking key on hit triggers, you're blocking often, sometimes you're blocking decently early in the game, so you guarantee you get to block with it twice. That's not going to be relevant when comparing to this. But, like, when you take away all that flexibility of starts in play, stays in play, and you make it 1 life, which your opponent is aware of as a potential threat for a cloaked, it's like, I don't know. I don't like the hoop. It seems like a big hoop.
Yeah, I mean, let me play devil's advocate to my own points from the start a little bit. I mean, the question is always, when was the last time you remember playing a game of limited Flesh and Blood where you defended with your equipment on 1 life? And I think they're a reasonable amount of time. Like, it's not 0, right? But it's probably, maybe 1 in 5, 1 in 10 games. The 1 in 5, the 1 in 10 games with this, you get to a really close game state, and this does work. It's going to feel like a bomb. Where you're in a really close game, you're grinding it out, you get to 1 life, you flip this up, and you get the 3 value out of it. It's going to feel like a bomb.
In traditional Flesh and Blood, it would feel like you win the game. Like, getting 3 value versus 0 off a piece of equipment, just like complete, like, that's a huge swing. Like, actually ridiculous. Like, because we used to, like, think about some of the equipment from heavy hitters, the one that would get, additional defensive value based off the tokens you have. Like, think about how swingy those games could be when your opponent got the full value of that equipment and you got none because they manipulated the token state. Or like you weren't able to generate tokens. It was just crazy.
Kind of insane, right? Or even the warrior one was often quite easy to activate as well. Yeah, but I think this is just not that. I think that's really key to know. So sometimes this is going to feel, honestly, there's going to be games you're like, that's a friggin' A. This card's insane. But a lot of the time you'll be like, I got no value out of that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, next up is Stride of Reprisal. This is a Mystic Ninja equipment legs at common. Defends 1, has Blade Break, and says when this defends, create a Crouching Tiger in your hand. I think this card is good and important for Zen. This is your starts in play, stays in play, similar to we talked about the arms and the legs for Nu and getting those attack reacts to power your kind of game plan. This is doing something similar. Going to get that Blade Break and then that Crouching Tiger to power your game plan. I think the fact this doesn't have Battle Worn and then you get to activate this anytime you want is a little bit of a downside. So I have this at a C+. I think it is a bit worse than the new ones, honestly.
I had it at a B. I mean, but
I can see that.
Yeah. You're right. You're really right about the Blade Break. You were super right about the Blade Break. So that's interesting.
B-, meet in the middle.
Yeah, B-, be in the middle. Cheers. All right, next up we have Wind Chakra. This is a Mystic Ninja action. 3 defense, rare, 0 cost. Looking at the red. Always looking at the red. The next Crouching Tiger you play this turn gets +3. If you've transcended this turn, instead it gets +5, and this says go again.
Yeah. So Zen's the hero I have the least experience with in terms of how easy it is to transcend. I think Zen wants to be putting pressure on a lot of the time, and so transcending is going to come at a bigger cost than maybe the other 2 heroes, honestly. That's kind of my view at the moment. I could be wrong. But in saying that, I think minimum this is a Nimblism that blocks for 3, right? And I think at that point, this minimum it has to be probably a B- /C+. Mm-hmm. And this is probably, I'm going to give this, because I think Transcend is going to be more of a build around Zen. Could be wrong again. But I think I have this as like a build around A at that point.
Okay. I have it as a B.
Yeah. Makes sense. Companion of the Claw. This is a Mystic Ninja action attack at common. Cost 2, attacks for 4, defends for 2. This is the red, of course. When this attacks, if you've pitched a blue card this turn, create a Crouching Tiger in your hand. Go again. Now, you do want ways to create Crouching Tigers, right? But inherently, Crouching Tiger has no value by itself. So 2 cost leg tap that creates a Crouching Tiger is kind of not where I want to be, but you might have to play some of these. So I think this is filler. I think this is I think the first 1 or 2 are a C, and then they're all C- as Ds after that.
Yep, that's exactly what I had. You know what's funny? I just remembered it, and I'm not going to tangent for long. But you did ask, you're like, how many A's in the set? Because we were meaning about making everything. In this set, in particular, I think I actually had 0 Ds and Fs. Like there was one that was like, okay, in this color, but like usually there's some huge shitters, like Memorial Ground.
Huge shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I think we talked about this with heavy hitters. I think Alice has just gotten better at not having those in the game.
Some people think those cards are good. Some people are like, oh my god, Memorial Ground and my it's just like no.
Yeah. Those people are stupid, but the main thing is I think that Alice has just gotten better about not having those cards. Like, there's just less need for them, or they're just filling less. They've got creative. Look at a card like Art of Desire, Body, Soul, Mind, whatever. All those cards, like they've got creative with some of the design principles for limited, which I think is really cool, honestly. So yeah, I mean, look, the yellow of this, it's probably a D, right? Like, a 2-cost 3 go again. Like that is probably a D. That is probably one of them, but there's not many.
What kind of content creators out here rating bananas? Like they're bananas. Like I mean, some are better than others, but they are still bananas at the end of the day. Harmony of the Hunt. Mystic Ninja attack action. Attacks for 3, blocks for 2, at common, costs 1. Says when this attacks, if you pitched a blue card this turn, create a Crouching Tiger in your hand. Go again. So I think frequently you're going to be getting this effect. And the effect is actually not insane. Still just like kind of a 1 for 3. Obviously, you have the weapon to facilitate giving that Crouching Tiger additional +1. I had a C for this. I thought it was like a super role player.
Yeah, so I think Harmony of the Hunt, if we talk about one of my favorite things in this set review so far, is talking about scaling, obviously. Probably getting sick of me talking about it by now, but if I compare Companion of the Claw and Harmony of the Hunt, I lose 1 damage for 1 resource, but I still get the Crouching Tiger. I'm way more in for Harmony of the Hunt because the breakpoint doesn't matter. But getting that Crouching Tiger is probably going to matter to my game plan. So a lot of the time I'm going to want to take this over it.
Yeah.
And I don't think damage density is as important as maybe something like Outsiders.
With the cost of the weapon?
Yes, because the cost of the weapon. So I think that 1 costs are really important. I did talk about that earlier in the pod. I think 1 costs are really important in the set. So I have Harmony of the Hunt as a C+. I think it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have Tiger Form Incantation. This is a Mystic Ninja action. So it's a non-attack, defends for 3, costs 1. It's common. We're looking at the red. It says the next Crouching Tiger you play this turn gets +3. If you've pitched a blue card this turn, create a Crouching Tiger in your hand, and it has go again. So kind of akin to Rise from the Ashes, right? But you pay 1 resource, you get a Crouching Tiger that's going to come in for minimum 3. But if you've Kakara that turn, it's going to be for 4, right? So I think this is equivalent in value to Wind Chakra, right? But Wind Chakra costs 0 and has more upside. So
I feel like the Kakara thing is like the plus value you get from Kakara is kind of baked into the Kakara weapon being a 2 for 2. So it's like when you have these like multi-dependent cards, whether it's like Tiger from Incantation and Kakara, you can't attribute all the value. Yeah, you can't add all the value to Tiger because you're also eating the opportunity cost on Kakara because Kakara is kind of a bad weapon.
Yes. I think I would just not do that. I think Kakara is a 2 for 3. And if you're having to attack for 2 for 2, it's pretty bad. So at this point, you should look at these cards.
But this is strictly a 1 for 3, yeah. So
you should look at this as a 1 for 3, right?
Yeah.
But creating the Crouching Tiger, you need ways to create Crouching Tigers to get that Kakara value and also to give value to some other cards, which we're going to get to. So yeah, I have this like a C+. I mean, this card blocks 3, which is nice. I think maybe this is going to be a nice blue to have in your deck as well. The blues are really interesting because you want a good number of blues across all the decks. They're going to be contested. We're going to get to the Mystics soon for that reason. So those cards are going to be really hotly contested, I think. So good blues in your class are going to be important, I think. And I think this is one of them.
Yeah, I had a B-. I don't know what I was smoking, but that's what I put.
No, look, you honestly, it could be right. I think this one's a little bit hard to.
I'm just giving my honest ratings that I did by myself.
You're doing a good job.
All right. Next up, we're into the equipment here, Ninja, and just Ninja cards in general. So we have Mask of Wizened Whiskers, Ninja equipment head, blocks for 1. Says when this defends, put a card with combo from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck and as Blade Break. I had a C+. I didn't really think that this, like, the effect is better because you're tutoring. Significantly better than because you're tutoring. Because sometimes the bottom of your deck is just, like, never realized. But, I saw a C+. I thought it was, like, okay.
Yeah, I had B-, but I think you're right. I think this is probably a C+. One of the things I do like about this is I think Zen really needs power cards. And if you get to play a powerful combo card twice, there's one in particular I think you want to, if you could play twice, that's great. Then awesome, but you do have to also be able to get that in a chi, search it up, or get back to its second cycle. So I think you're probably right. This probably is a C+, but yeah, maybe I stick with my B-. I think this card is good. Next up, we have Aspect of Tiger Body. so indicating that this is going to be another cycle where the text is going to be different. It's at rare ninja action attack, cost 0, attacks for 3 and defense for 3 at red. Combo, when this attacks, if a red attack action card was the last attack this combat chain, this gets go again and create a crouching tiger in your banished zone. You may play it this turn. This is the kind of card that I want for creating my crouching tigers. A 0 cost 3 attack go again, so head jab that also defends 3. Has a condition, obviously, you need to play another red card, but I think the fact this defends 3 helps you balance that and creates your crouching tiger. It's important to note this creates in the banished zone, so you can't then arsenal that crouching tiger, which you can with other things to set up for future turns, which I think is really relevant. You're going to do that a lot of the time, arsenal a crouching tiger. It's also worth noting aspect of tiger body, so the yellow one, soul and mind, I think the same thing again. It's going to be triggering on yellow cards, and the blue one's going to trigger on blue cards. So the yellow, I think, is pretty poor. It's going to be hard to get the go again, unless your deck's kind of bad. I think the red I have at a B+. I think I have the yellow at like a... the yellow I think I have like a C- D, and then the blue I have at like a C+, I think.
I just had C+, to be honest, but...
Okay, so we're like a full grade different on this.
Full grade. All right, next is Key Unleashed.
Am I wrong? Am I that wrong?
No, I don't know. Like sometimes, so I feel like sometimes as I get towards like the tail end, I'm like, did I think about this long enough? Like, it's like, was I fucking speeding through? I don't know. All right, next one is Key Unleashed, which is a ninja attack action at rare, attacks for 3, blocks for 3, cost 2. It says combo of Crouching Tiger was the last attack this combat chain. This gets +4 attack. So that's a 2 for 7 that blocks for 3, which is not bad at all. It's conditional.
With a hoop.
And it has combo.
Hoop, yeah.
And it has combo. So you can
hoop.
fetch it. You can fetch it too.
Yeah, it's got a small hoop. Yep.
My biggest issue with this card is just the 2 cost in Ninja. Like, I don't know how good 2 cost will be, because I mean we've had ninjas in particular that have had busted 2 cost cards, but they've been unplayable because of the way the resources break down when you actually play out a full turn. 5 and Red Hot versus Lava Burst. So that's my issue.
That format was so fast though.
Yeah, that's
that format was
my
so
issue.
insanely fast.
Nevertheless, I gave it a B-. Just 2 for 7 is great.
I think I have this an A-.
A-.
I think this is
okay.
I think because you only want this once you're like, I think it's the first pick that could get you into Ninja, and you do, I think, definitely want this in Zen. I think this is one of the most powerful payoff cards. So maybe it's more like a B+ when you compare it to other cards in the set. But I felt like I wasn't giving out enough A's. So
I feel like I give out like 1 A a set. Not counting equipment, I feel like I maybe give out 1 A a set. Like, maybe. All right.
This is probably the set I've given, I think, the least in a while, though. I think Heavy Hitters I had like 5 or 6, and the Bright Lights like 4 or 5. I think I'm like 2 or 3 here. I think I'm gonna stick with my A-. I think this card is really important, and I think because it's rare, it's hard to come by. And it's the hoop is pretty small, and I think the set is not as fast as Uprising, so you're going to get the ability to play 4-card hands, 3 4-card hands to be able to activate Key Unleashed. You can Arsenal Crouching Tigers, which I think is a great strategy all the time. So I think this guy's really powerful.
I actually think, quick tangent, I actually think Chapeau would be an S. Like, it'd be the only card to ever make it to S tier. I mean, Via the Vanguard is pretty close. Soul Reaping is close. Like, those cards really exceed the A's. But Chapeau starts in play, stays in play, plus it's just like insane activation. Man, that card was just so unbalanced. Like,
yeah, I agree.
But again, I think the Guardian was probably one of the weaker things in that draft set. Nevertheless, okay, we've tangented. All right, next one is Biting Breeze. Ninja attack action. Attacks for 3, blocks at 2, at common, cost 0. Says, when this hits, create a Crouching Tiger in your banished zone. You may play it this turn. Go again. I had C for Ultimate Role Player.
Yeah, I think it's really important to note that creating the banished zone is really relevant. If this created in your hand, I think this would be like a B. I think the fact this creates it in banished zone, it's a C. But you do want, it's a head jab that gives you a Crouching Tiger. So I think the red is a C+, and I think the rest are C's, C-, maybe even D's. But yeah. You need ways to create Crouching Tigers. Next up, we have Breed Anger.
So
I'm going to keep saying.
This is so funny. Breed Anger is the analog to Mounting Anger, right? And then Biting Breeze is the analog to, what the fuck was the name of that card? You remember? Like in Uprising?
Yeah. I can't remember what the...
We all called it Het Jab. That's why we don't know what it's called.
Yep.
Anyway,
I think it's Bramus. No, Bramus is the one that created Rising Resentment.
Rising Resentment. Yeah, that's it.
Breed Anger. This is a ninja action attack at common. Attacks for 4, defense for 3, which I think is important. At cost 1, it says combo. When this attacks, if a Crouching Tiger was the last attack, this combat chain, this gets go again, and create a Crouching Tiger in your banished zone. You may play it this turn. I think if this said create a Crouching Tiger in your hand, this card would be an A. I think as it stands, I think this is probably a B- at red. I think blocking 3 is really good. Because even if you don't get to head jab this, what's the worst line you come up with in your turn? You're like, I had this Crouching Tiger, I Kakara into Crouching Tiger into this. It's like, okay. Or even if you don't do it, just Kakara into this is a 2-card 6. Like, It's not the worst, right?
I see
Box
plus.
3, so yeah, okay.
All right, next up is Flex Claws, Ninja Attack Action. Attacks for 4, blocks for 2, a common, cost 1. Says when this hits, create a Crouching Tiger in your banished zone. You may play it this turn. I'd C+, but I think that's a little
I've C+ as well,
Okay.
but I think I have B- for like the first 1 or 2, because I think this is one of the most efficient damage ways to create Crouching Tigers for big turns. This is some of them are like good setup cards, and the ones that put stuff in the hand I think are going to be relevant. But this is I think this is the best one for just a pure like set up a big turn kind of thing, because it's 4 damage, 1 resource, and creates the Crouching Tiger. So it's good resource uses. Next up we have Pouncing Key. This is a ninja action attack at common. Attacks for 3, defense 3, cost 0. Combo. If Crouching Tiger was the last attack, this combat chain, this gets +1 and go again. I mean, now we're getting into some of the payoff cards, right? I think these get better the more ways you have to pay them off. I really like the blue in this as well, because it defends 3 and then is potentially a 2-cost go again attack that's blue. That's going to help you then play it for transcend cards, things like that. And I think those are the things. That's the complex part of Zen, is like knowing what blues you want to trigger transcend, and they need to be efficient. So you said B? I think. Yeah, I have C+, but maybe this is more of a B-. I think especially once you have the payoff, like the creators. The first couple of these payoff cards are probably in the B range. I think I agree.
Next up, we have Untamed. This was Hayden's nickname in high school. We have Ninja Attack Action. Attacks for 4, blocks for 2 at common. Costs 1. Says when this attacks, the next Crouching Tiger you play, this combat chain gets +1 attack. Go again. Interesting. So it doesn't create the Crouching Tiger, but it gives you +1, which is really good.
Another payoff card.
It reminds me of Mounting Anger. I had a C, but I think I was a little low.
I got a B.
Yeah, I think that's more accurate.
I'm attributing this. I think it's pretty easy to create Crouching Tigers incidentally. Yeah. At worst, this is a leg tap, which I think is a C+, and then at best, this is a 1 for 5 go again. So I think this is a B. I think this card is really
fire.
good.
I think I low rated it. Anyway,
fire.
On
Mystic.
to the Mystic.
Oh, this is exciting.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, wait till we get to, this is going to be interesting. Anyway, first off, we have Aqua Seeing Shell, Mystic Equipment, Head at common, blocks for 1, has cloak, says instant, 3 resources, turn this face up, draw a card at the start of your turn, destroy this. I had a B for that.
Oh, a B.
I'm too high. I'm too high.
I have C.
I'm too high.
So it costs you 3 to flip it up to get the defensive value.
Yep.
Which I think is...
Oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, shit.
Important.
Yeah, that's very important.
But what this card is really good for is fueling your pitch zone with blue cards, 4 cards to say cards you pitched that are blue this turn. So I think this card's like a C. I think this card's fine.
Yeah, I think I completely read it wrong. So I agree with you.
Next up is Koi Bliss Kimono. This is a Mystic Equipment chest. No defensive value as a common. It is cloaked. And says, while this is equipped face down at the start of your turn, if you have exactly 1 life, there it is again, you may turn this face up. When this is turned face up, destroy it, search your deck for an inner chi, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Shuffle.
Fascinating. It's like a 0 value equipment, theoretically, but,
Some of the other ones sometimes, though. But I think where the other ones are defensive, this is offensive. And I think going down to 1 life and flipping this up to have a really big offensive turn to swing the tempo back and potentially either win the game or put your opponent down to a low life total and no cards in hand where you can win the game from 1 life, for instance, I think is really relevant. I think this might be the best of these cards, these cloaked 1 life cards. That's my view right now. Very open to being very wrong. Obviously, this one's common as well. I think this is like a C range, except in new. I think this is a B-. I think this is
it's so weird because searching for a chi like that is like drawing a card.
Yep,
which is
exactly
really good.
Exactly
that would make it the best.
And also in new, it's like drawing 3 or 4 cards potentially.
Yeah, that's actually kind of nuts. I had B for this, but I don't know. It's an interesting card.
Yeah, I think it could be a B. I think in new this is like a card I actively want to make sure I'm picking up once I know I'm in new. Because I think if I can dictate getting down to that 1 life, getting my inner chi, and then even if I only have like 1 card in hand because I've had to block out and go down to 1 life, and then I get to activate my hero ability and play a couple of cards, it's pretty good. Even if I'm only playing 1 card, for instance, it's still drawing a card, which is effectively 2 cards.
Next up, we have Waves of Aquamarine, Mystic Equipment, Arms, blocks for 1, Cloaked, attack reaction, 1 resource, turn this up, target attack, it's +1 attack, it's your turn, destroy this. I'd C+.
Yeah, I've C+ as well. I think this is very good in New and Zen.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of nuance to this one.
No. But it's good for pushing on hits, which is great. So I think it's good. Next up, we have Aqualapse. This is a cloaked Mystic Equipment, legs, 1 defense, attack react, 1 resource, turn this face up, target attack, it's go again. At the start of your turn, destroy this. So it's really important to note that you obviously going to flip this up on your turn, right? To get the attack reaction effect, but then your opponent knows about it. So if they just block out on the turn, often I think you won't get the defensive value on this. Not often, but sometimes there'll be times you don't get the defensive value on this. I think it's worth noting that sometimes these cards are maybe not as good as they look because they will get blown up at the start of your next turn. All that said, I think go again at common and a cheap way to be able to replace something like your stilettos and new, or being able to have this as a backup plan in your Zen deck, I think is fairly good. Again, this attack reaction for new. So I think it's like a C+, but it could even be a B-, or yeah. I would just go C+, actually.
I'd C+. All right, next one is Skycrest Keikoi. Mystic Equipment, had a common, no defensive value, cloaked, instant, destroy this, prevent the next 1 damage you'd be dealt. That would be dealt to you this turn. Activates ability only while this is face down. And I'm just going to quickly go through these.
Yeah, they're all the same.
Yep. So we have the chest, the hands, and the boots. Are any better than others due to competition
replacement
in the
level?
slot? Yeah.
Yeah. Probably, but I haven't deep dived enough to have a look at that. Probably it's not the legs, because I think there's some good competition in the legs in particular, and it's probably not the chest because of the rears and the what's the one called, the kimono, etc. So it's probably the head, then the arms, then the legs and chest. I have these all at C-, so I think these are just yeah, you could be right. I have these at C-. I think these are just you're right, because there's a few different head options. I think these are just replacement if you don't have other things. These are actually pretty reasonable and nice combat tricks to saving, against attack reacts, but often the attack react's not going to push 1 damage, it's going to push 2 or 3 damage over the top. So I have this C-. I think they're just replacement level.
All right, next up we have second.
One note before we get into these.
Okay.
All the Mystic cards are blue. Every single one of them. So unlike what Brendan's been saying previously, of course we're talking about the red. We are, of course, talking about the blue because there's only blues for these cards.
Second tenet of Chi, Moon. Mystic attack action, attacks for 5, blocks for 3, is at rare, cost 3. It says, if you transcended this turn, this gets, when the chain link resolves, draw a card.
Let's go, baby.
I'd C+.
I got A-.
A-. Fuck, I haven't played with these cards, though. These cards I feel like you really have to play with.
I haven't really either, but hear me out.
Okay.
Hear me out.
Okay. I think it's the better one of like a lot of what are going to come. I do think this is the better one. Oh, shit.
Can't wait to see your grades.
Oh, God.
Okay, so hear me out, right? I think blues, I don't even think. Blues are super important in this format.
Yeah.
And this is a blue that keeps you open. It's a powerful blue in the late game. It defends 3, which I think is really relevant. I think it's a card that helps you with your Transcend because you play this, and then in response you play the Transcend card. You then have triggered the Transcend effect. You're going to draw the card off that ability and still be able to activate your hero ability, for instance, which is better in some heroes than others. Especially in Enigma, I think this card is really, really strong. Potentially be able to play an aura and speed out aura afterwards or something like that, or create the spectral shield, whatever. But yeah, I think also this is kind of a combat trick as well. Maybe not as good as some of the other ones we're going to talk about, but yeah, I think these cards, honestly, I think the worst of these cards, in my view, because I think blues are really important, especially ones that block 3 and have, because you have to play so many blues, you want some powerful blues so that when you draw a hand of all blues, you can still present good damage and good power. So I think the worst of these has to be like in the C+ range, honestly. That's kind of how I feel. So I have this one at A-.
Okay.
We'll see where it shakes out. I'm notorious for getting hyped up about these kind of very, these kind of grand ideas, and then
grand ideas. It says draw a card. That's like card game 101.
No, about just how important like these kind of open mystic blues are. That's all. Anyway, next up we have Second Tenant of Chi Tide. This is a mystic action attack at rare. It costs 3, attacks for 5, defends for 3, and says if you've transcended this turn, get +2 attack. So you can transcend this as a combat trick, which is quite cool because you can play this and then you can transcend in the reactions, and this becomes a 7 attack. I mean, a blue that attacks for 7 is pretty good, right?
I'd B+, but I'm sure you're high.
I have a B+.
What? Okay.
This one might be better than Moon, but I really get amped up about drawing cards, man. I don't know. And I think there's a lot of cards in this format are okay to stick in your arsenal because you want blues that have good effects. So I think actually it's kind of counterintuitive. Usually like, high blues, that's worst cards to arsenal, aka Guardian, for instance. But actually a lot of blues are very playable in the set and you want to play them.
Next up, Second Tenant of Chi Wind, Mystic attack action, attacks for 5, blocks for 3 at rare, cost 3. It says, if you transcended this turn, this gets go again. +2 or go again. Which one do you like more?
I'm an A. I'm a big A here. Easy A, I think.
Okay.
I think this is pack one, pick one.
Okay. I can see that. I mean, a blue that attacks for 5 and has go again, facilitates transcend, seems very, very powerful.
I like to think of it as like, let's say I pitch my blue, I play my Second Tenant of Chi Wind, I transcend it into speed, I pitch maybe I play that to activate my hero ability, of course, this is almost better on all of them because Zen's hero ability, for instance, you want to be able to play second, right? You don't want to, if you don't have go again, then the hero ability is a lot worse. Obviously, you can Arsenal card, and then you play something even, like another one of these attacks. Maybe it's Tidal Surge, which is the 3 cost. If you've played another blues card, turn it gets +2. So you can combo some of these blues into a much above rate, and I think this is one of the ones that helps enable that. So I think this is an A for me. Next up, we have Deep Blue Sea. This is a mystic action attack at rare. Attacks for 5, defends for 2, costs 4, and says this turn, this gets +1 for each blue card you've pitched this turn.
I didn't like this one as much.
Yeah, I mean, it costs 4. But again, I think one thing to remember is when you've got heavy blue hands, there's some good, you can get this to 6 or 7 damage, I think, which is nice for a blue card. But it defends for 2, right? Which I think is worth noting. So I have this at a, I have B-.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But maybe because it defends 2, maybe it's more like a C+. But I just find it really hard to be too low on these cards because I think they're all pretty good.
Next up is Wide Blue Yonder. This is Mystic Attack Reaction, blocks for 2 at rare, costs 0, and says target attack gets +1 for each blue card you pitch this turn.
I think this is a Zen and New card. So I think I have this at like a C- for Enigma and then like a C+, B- for Zen and New.
Okay, I had a C.
Mostly for New. But I think you want blue cards that have good effects, and blue reactions that potentially push over 1 or 2 damage, I think could be good. But yeah, it's probably a C.
Yeah. There's always some aspect of a set that is hard to evaluate before playing with cards. And in this set in particular, it is just how the blues facilitate the other aspects of the gameplay and how important they are and how good it is to have like some of the better blues. Because like obviously we can sit here and say it's good because it does seem like it's going to do, but to what order of magnitude are some of these blues like very impactful and actually transcending and pulling off all these effects? Like it's very complicated to evaluate from. And
you can only play so many, and this defense for 2, and yeah,
it's hard.
I agree. Next up is Big Blue Sky, Mystic Defense Reaction, the only defense reaction at common rare. It costs 0, defense for 2, and says this gets +1 defense for each blue card you've pitched this turn. I like this card, especially in Enigma where you're actively pitching blues on the defensive side, so you can pretty quickly make this 3, sometimes honestly even maybe 4.
Yeah.
I think all said though, it's probably still in the C+.
It says C+ and Illusionist.
Yeah.
What do you think about the other heroes though?
I think it's like a C-.
Yeah, it might be like our only D maybe. I don't know. Seems pretty bad.
No, because it's blue that defends 2, that's a defense reaction. Like it can't be that much worse, right? Surely not.
Yeah, you're right. It's close. It's as close as it gets in part the Mistveil.
I want to make a quick insert here, and we've actually just had a lot of the rest of the cards drop. So we're going to do the rest of the cards that we've missed so far at the end of the pod. so that Brendan can easily edit the card images in. So we're going to keep going as we are, and then there's a couple of cards we've skipped past because they weren't available that have now become available. That we'll get to. Just a little insert there. Next up, Brendan.
Droplet. Mystic attack action. Attacks for 2, blocks for 2, costs 0 at common. Says if you play another blue card this turn, this gets +2.
Yeah. I mean, I like blues that have utility, right? And I mean, these defend for 2, so you can't play with too many. And that's why I'm so excited about these ones that block 3 that have really good utility and power. Because there's ones at 2, yeah, they're good, but they block less. They're maybe not quite as powerful. So I have this like a CC plus.
I had a C plus for this.
Because you do have to be able to get go again or have transcended or played a non-attack action blue to be able to get the +2. But yeah, I think it's reasonable. Rising Tide. This is a mystic action attack at common. Defends 2, attacks 3, costs 1. If you played another blue card this turn, it gets +2. So it's just droplet, but costs 1 more, attacks 1 more. I think this is maybe the best of the cycle because of the cost. I think 1 cost is really important. So I have this one at a B-, actually. C+, B-.
Mm-hmm. I'd B- as well.
Oh, mate. Look at us go.
Well, at the beginning, I was like, oh shit, are these all going to be A's for Hayden? Next one is Spillover. It's a mystic attack action, attacks for 4, blocks for 2, costs 2. At common, says if you play another blue card this turn, this gets +2 attack. I'd C.
Yeah.
2 costs.
I've C as well. I think it's the worst of them. The reason I was so high on the other ones, though, is there's a lot more to them. They have a lot more value in them.
2 costs is the yellow of costs.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, not always. Sometimes they give a 1-cost weapon. It's like really good, but yeah.
Yeah. 2-cost in Enigma is actually pretty good, to be honest. There's a lot of power in the 2-cost spot. You just can't play too many of them. Tidal Surge, mystic action attack, attacks of 5, defense for 2, costs 3. Played another blue card this turn, it gets +2. So the next of the range, I think it's a C+. I think this is better than the 2-cost, slightly worse than the 1-cost.
I'd C.
Cool.
First tenant, Chi Moon. Mystic action, common, blocks for 3, costs 0, says, and it's your next blue attack this turn gets when this attacks, draw a card, go again. I'm really interested. What do you think?
I really don't like this card.
Because we talked about this, I think, like a while ago, actually. It was like one of the
early previews. It was an early preview we saw, yeah. So the upside to this card, right, is it's a card that helps you turn on Transcend. But there's actually quite a few good blues that do that. And I think this is basically just filler that will sometimes do that, and defensive 3, which is nice. But I have this at a C-. I think this is pretty replacement level, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you?
Oh, sorry. I totally spaced out. I had a C.
Okay, cool. First tenant of Chi, Tide. This is a mystic action. Your next blue attack this turn gets +2 attack, has go again. There's something I want to point out, is that some of the offensive cards are actually really hard to line up in some of the heroes. So for instance, Enigma, these cards I think are quite hard to line up because you're not really playing blue attacks, but also you are playing a lot on your opponent's turn. And then if you're playing blue attacks, you're already trading down, right? So the argument is, you get to play these cards to help you transcend, right? But actually then you have to have played this, you have to play another blue, and you have to have the transcend card. So you're trading kind of down. So I think these cards get better the more of those like rares that I think are in the B+ A range you have. But otherwise, I think this is another C-, honestly. I think this one actually, might be slightly worse than Moon.
All right, first tenant of Chi, Wind, mystic action, blocks for 3, a common, costs 0, and says the next blue action card you play this turn gets go again, and this also has go again. I had a C.
Same thing as the above, except I actually think this is the worst. I think this might be a C-, D+. I think apart from the fact this blocks 3.
When you ever want a full set without the Ds, so let's call it
no. When you ever wanted to give your blue attack go again though in this set?
Never.
Like you want to end with it a lot of the time, not start with it. Anyway, all right, we are on to the transcend commons now. So
I
just
guess you didn't
to make
this one a drop in the ocean. This is actually what I have popped up right now. Or you scroll past.
It's a transcend card.
Oh, it is? Okay, I totally missed it then. Oh, my bad. I was like, oh, yeah.
So the next 8 cards are going to be the Mystic Instants that are legendary and have transcend. So just to make it easy, we're not going to have to read through all these. They all have the text type legendary. They're all instants. They all don't block. They all cost 0. We're just going to read the effect that they do. They all turn into energy with transcend. So drop in the ocean is target attack. It's -1.
I'd see.
I have C as well.
That was one of the
I think
worst ones.
Yes. So the ones that, because you want to, the effects on these cards aren't very good, right? The power is you get to transcend, and then the inner chi then lets you power out your hero ability, right? That's the power of inner chi. So what you want is you want to transcend whenever you need to. So you conditional things like this, they have to target an attack, are a lot tougher. So I agree. I have this at C, but I think it's just worth noting that. Homage to the Ancestors is Game on Life.
B-.
Yeah, I have C+, but again, not contextual, so easier to get off. I'll just read through these, Brendan.
Mm-hmm.
Passover. This is banish target card from opposing hero's graveyard.
C.
Yeah, I have C+ to B-. Again, this is kind of has a hoop to jump through. Like it has some prerequisites, but they're pretty small. And also for new, this can be really good,
Yeah,
right?
it seems cracked in new, actually. Really
So I think it's like C+ for everyone that's not new, and I think for new it's like a B-. Path Well Traveled is target attack gets go again. This one's good.
I'd C+.
Yeah, so this one is conditional, right? Which I see conditional, I think means generally weaker, but this is a more powerful conditional effect than say something like target attack gets -1. So this is B-. Did you say B+?
No, I'd C+.
C+, sorry. Yeah, this is B-. Preserved Edition is put target action card from your graveyard on the bottom of your deck. I think some loop and recursion is important. It can protect you from new a little bit. It can also put your best card back on the bottom of your deck, which can be relevant for second cycle or for shuffling if you're Zen. I have this C+.
C- for me. I thought it was less relevant than some of the others.
I think it is, but also I think you can almost always get this off, and I think that is actually a pretty.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Rising Sun, Setting Moon is draw a card, then put a card from your hand in the bottom of your deck. I really like this one to help you filter and set things up. I have this at C+.
I'd C+ as well.
Cool. And then Stir the Pot says shuffle.
Should be shuffle a target deck. That would be fucking sick.
That would be insane.
What would it be insane? I think it would break the game, but they need.
I think
they're
they're
gonna do that eventually. I feel like.
Yeah, maybe that feels very Yu-Gi-Oh / Lorcana.
You can't do that in Lorcana. No, that's so antithetical to Lorcana doing anything to your opponent's deck. But yeah, maybe Yu-Gi-Oh. I had a C for this.
Yeah, I'm gonna give C+ to all the ones that aren't conditional.
Okay,
because I think
I didn't really consider that too much, like conditional versus non-conditional.
C+.
Yeah.
The grain that tips the scale. I love the art on this card, honestly. I think it's so cool. Target attack. I hope these come in like full art or cold foil or something, because it'd be amazing. This says target attack, it's +1. I have this as C. I think it's conditional, but it's it's relevant. It's a combat trick.
I'm happy that they finally paid homage to Sasha Markovic and put him on a card.
I hope people look twice when they hear that.
Anyway, on to the generics. We have, starting off, Emissary of Moon, generic attack action at rare, attacks for 4, blocks for 2, costs 0, and says, when this attacks, you may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. If you do, draw a card. I had a C.
So I think all these cards are more powerful than they generally look, and they have been in previous sets, the Wounded Bulls of the world, and ones that have this kind of slight upside ability, you can filter, especially because the amount of blues in this. Sometimes you're going to want to filter to find a good arsenal target, for instance, or if you've somehow given this go again, another card to play. So I have this at B. I'm quite high on these cards in general, usually 0 for 4s sets.
Next.
Emissary of the Wind. So these next 3 cards are all emissaries. We're missing one of the emissaries still, unless it might be one of the ones we touch on at the end of the pod. But Emissary of Wind is the third of these. It's a generic action attack. Again, 0 for 4, defense for 2 at rare. These are only at red, by the way, these emissaries, these 3 cards. And this is, when this attacks, you may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. If you do, this gets go again. So this is, what was the card from Monarch that was kind of like this?
Yeah, so that is
Seek Horizon.
Yeah, it is Seek Horizon, actually.
Yeah. So this is kind of the inverse you put on the bottom. But I think go again is really good in this set. And I think a lot of the time you are just going to play this 0 for 4, but sometimes you're going to go a bit wider. I have a B on this as well.
Yeah, I had a C, but we're different on the 0 for 4s.
I could be wrong, honestly.
Yeah. Next one is
back to cycles now.
Is Gravekeeping. Says, when this attacks a hero, you may banish a card from their graveyard. Sorry, I read this completely differently than I have for the entirety of this podcast. It's Gravekeeping. Attacks for 5, blocks for 2, at rare, costs 1. It says, when this attacks a hero, you may banish a card from their graveyard. I had C-.
Threw you off. C-.
What?
Oh
What's so good about this card?
I think
it's good and new.
Banishing.
I think.
Yeah, I think for new, it's obviously really strong. But I think 1 costs are good. Okay. And I think particularly Chain Enders that cost 1 are actually pretty reasonable. I have a C+ on this, B- in new.
Okay.
And I think the blue is quite good in new as well. Next up is Battlefront Bastion. This is a generic action attack. At common, look at the red, attacks for 7, defense for 2, costs 3, and says when this defends alone, prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to you this turn.
B. Raging Onslaught at home.
Plus on this.
Yeah, Raging Onslaught at home.
I wish Raging Onslaught was this good.
Really? Okay, you think it's bad?
Okay, so the context to this, new swings in with the first weapon. You block with this, prevent the next 1 damage. They can't swing with the next weapon. Otherwise, you prevent it. I also being able to prevent some of the on hits. So let's say they attack with the weapon, you block this, then they attack with a stealth card, and you have, rather than having to block with 2 cards, you can block with just 1 card to cover things up, for instance. So you don't get the on hit and only banish 1 card. I think that prevention is actually, I thought it was kind of incidental. I think it's pretty relevant in this format for limited. So
yeah, we're both high on the card. We both have both.
I think it's Fyendals Fighting Spirit at home is what it is.
Okay.
But the home might be better. All right, the last card in the core set of cards before we go to our addendum at the end of the pod for the cards that have just come out as we recorded. That's how on top of things we happen, and we're recording as the last few cards are coming out. We're so efficient. Water the Seeds. This is a generic action attack at common. Attacks for 3, defense for 2, costs 1. Looking at the red one here. It says when this attacks, your next attack this combat chain with 1 or less base attack gets +1 attack. Has go again. The yellow will have 2 attack. The blue will have 1 attack. So it'll always give a 1 or less cost +1.
I'd see.
I think this is a C.
Okay.
Yeah, I see as well. I think in the right deck, because this allows you to go wide, it costs 1, which I think we've talked about being a good cost structure in this format, and potentially being able to give something else +1 because of liking 1 cost cards, particularly probably for, this is Zen. Zen's going to like this card a lot. At that point, it's a 1 for 4. It's a leg tap, but it spreads the damage over. So also, I think this is actually, I think this card is really good in new, to be honest, because you can push some of your stealth cards to a break.
That's a good point. That is a good point. That does seem very good,
yeah.
actually.
Yeah. So I think in the right deck, this might even be a C plus B minus, honestly.
All right, starting off here for our addendum, we have Sigil of Solitude, which is an Illusionist action aura, blocks for 2, costs 0. Looking at the red, at the start of your turn, if you control another Illusionist aura, destroy this, and has ward 4.
So yellow's 3, blue's 2. I got really excited when I saw this card pop up. I think this card's good. I think, we talked about before about auras and not having go again and that being a concern, but ones that cost 0 because I can play them off 1 card, I think is really good. And if my opponent kind of like clears up my board, or I have a turn where I don't have many auras, I play 1 plus play an attack action, block out in the next turn, play this. A ward 4, like a 0 for 4 is really strong, I think.
Yeah.
That said, I don't want to get too hyped. I think it's a C plus.
Okay. I'll side with you.
Next up, we've got Blessing of Ki. This is a reprint, I believe, from maybe Dynasty. Yeah.
The set
at the start of your turn.
Remembers.
Yeah. So it's a 1 cost ninja action aura at rare, defense for 3, and says at the start of your turn, destroy this, then create a Crashing Tiger in your banish zone. It gets +3, and you may play it this turn. So yellow gives you +2, blue +1. I like the blue of this, I think. Nice way to create a Crouching Tiger and a defense 3, but I mean, the red is a 1 cost +3.
I think it's a C.
I'm not
it's a solid role player.
Yeah, I think it's a C as well. I mean, rares at C don't make me very excited, though. I want my rares to be minimum C+, and that isn't one of them. I mean, what the hell is this card?
Yeah, next up is Blanche. Generic attack action, attacks for 7, blocks for 2, costs 3, and says, when this is a hero, cards they own lose all colors until the end of their next turn.
Yeah, these cards are all cycles, by the way, that we're talking about. The art on this feels like it's not from the set.
True. Very true. It's also like very kind of photorealistic on the face.
Yeah. I mean, I am down for some more, as Brendan says, Raging Onslaughts at home. This is definitely more of that kind of vibe. The text on it is going to be somewhat relevant, right? For some of the cards that, yes, can't transcend. That's massive, but also the cards that care about color. So you've obviously got that with some of the stealth cards, but you've also got that with some of the auras from Enigma. You've also got that with a couple of cards from Zen as well. So I think this card is actually pretty good, and also just the stats are good. So I kind of want to give this card a B.
I get behind that. I'm a big 3 for 7 kind of guy. I don't know if this is a set for it, but
I know you are.
yeah, I'm a big 3 for 7 gamer. All right.
Do you want to go on a fact-finding mission?
Yeah, next is fact-finding mission. Generic attack action at common, attacks for 6, blocks for 2, costs 2, and says, when hits a hero, you may look at their face. No, look at face-down cards in their arsenal or equipment zones.
Face. You get to pick one.
A face-down card in there.
Yeah, you choose
interesting.
one.
Yeah, that's ass. Sorry.
So
information like that is always
what are you looking
bad.
at?
Well, 2 for 6 and blocks
generally.
for 2 is like pretty bad at red. That is not a good ability. That's like a super Timmy ability. Like that's not good. That's bad. It's bad. It's
What are you
always,
looking at though?
What do you mean?
Which slot? Which slot are you looking at? Let's say your opponent, they've got 4 cloaked cards
Depends on
an arsenal.
Yeah, I think it depends on the context of the board state, because some are defensive. You know, you have the ones that could, if you put them on life, they'll get 3 value. You have ones that are attack reactions, so it's relevant based off the game state. But I'm not looking at anything because I'm not playing this card in my deck. This card is so bad. This is actually a D.
I think this card's
Interesting.
no,
Yeah.
It's a 2 for 6. It's not
2 for 6 is bad in a
maybe.
set that has a bunch of 2 for 7. So the thing is like they're evaluating that
3
the
for-
information has 1 point of quantitative value, which it is not. It's
So-
0.
No, I'm assigning the fact that this costs 2 resources. So if I can do something like come in with my ward attack and for 1 resource, then come in for this.
Maybe you're kind of free rolling the ability then, but the ability is really bad. This is like the ultimate. The ultimate.
I agree.
Timmy owner in any card game is overvaluing information like this. Like usually it's just useless. I mean, it is useless. But
It's bad. It's It's not. Yeah. It's
Useless
so
but
the
it's
value
bad.
of it is so bad.
So low. Yeah, it's
relative to the value of a damage or a resource or an action point or anything like that. I would say I'm going to put this at like a D plus to C plus, and it's really
I'll go
going to depend
D
on
plus.
your deck. But also, what's worth pointing out is the reason I asked that question is I think if my opponent has a face down chest, I'm just going to look at their chest most of the time to find out what it is.
So I think D plus for me. I don't think I'm ever looking at anything like it's such a bad ability. But
We've got some reprints.
Yep.
Nimble Strike. Generic action attack at common. First scene and welcome to Wraith. Attacks for 4, defense for 2. This is the red one. Costs 1. Says an additional cost to play this. You may banish a Nimbleism from your graveyard. If you do, this gets +1 and go again.
All right.
These make perfect sense.
Let me, Nimbleism is a generic non-attack action at common, blocks for 2, costs 0, and it says the next attack action card you play, the next attack action card with cost 1 or less you play this turn gets +3, and it has go again.
Yep.
I mean, this stuff is good. Like, this stuff has been good. Honestly, Nimbleism itself is usually a lot better than Nimble Strike. Nimble Strike is it's very conditional, actually, and the stats are not fantastic. So, but Nimbleism is a really good card in Limited. And so is this next card. This next card is fucked good. This card is busted.
I've been talking about it a lot, right?
Yeah.
I think that I have Nimble Strike at like a build around C plus. Otherwise, I honestly think it's like a D.
I find you can almost never build around Nimble Strike, and I think it's okay to have like.
I drafted if I've got Nimbleisms.
Yeah.
If I've got 2 red Nimbleisms, a blue Nimbleism, a red Nimble Strike becomes like a C plus for me. Otherwise, it's like.
I think it's a C minus. I don't think it's a D. Like it's not terrible. I think Nimbleism is like a C plus and some like B minus. Like it's such a good card.
I have it more than CC plus range.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it could be context based on the sets, but yeah, C plus. Next card. Wounding Blow. Generic attack action, attacks for 4, blocks for 3, costs 0, and says farmhands, villagers, and slaves. The Volkai have long suffered at the hand of their masters. And my opponents are
so funny that I've referenced this card
Wounded Blow
a lot in the set review without knowing it was actually in the set.
Yeah.
So I think if I was giving the 4 attacks for 0 that have 2 defense with some upside Bs, I probably need to give this.
Yeah. I think it's an A
C
minus. Oh, a C plus?
Oh,
I think okay, maybe it's because I played too much cards on Welcome to Wraith, but like it is such a good card. Like it's insane.
Yeah, you're right. This is, I guess it's like even in Enigma and stuff, it's pretty reasonable because you can block. It's probably in the B range. Yeah, I'm gonna go B minus though. I always feel like some of these cards that are just like chaining. You can't have too many of them.
Sometimes just like reprints that people overvalue, like Scarf for Scar, and I can't remember, it was in Uprising. It actually wasn't that good.
No, it was fine. But that format was really aggressive, so you're often on
B+ and Wounding Blow. I really like that card.
All right, I'll go B-. Last card, Evasive Leap. This is just cards proving me wrong. I said there's only one defense reaction. This is a generic defense reaction at common. Defends for 3, costs 0, and it just says defense reactions can be played from hand or asked.
It's garbage, though. Just, right? It's like, what? This is so bad.
So,
I mean, it's like set contextual, but like, it's like so bad considering that
it's
Sink Below.
It's a sideboard card.
Yeah,
I'm going to give this a sideboard grade. I think this is the red one is a sideboard for Zen and Nu into Nu. I think this is a sideboard C+, B- at red. Probably C+. And then I think otherwise this card is going to be pretty bad. There's going to be a lot of times you don't want this. But against Nu, this is the kind of card you really do.
Really? Okay.
Honestly. Well, because you don't want to be blocking with cards that they can banish if they're going to be blues. You don't want you want reactions to play against their reactions.
It's just crazy to me. This is literally Sink Below, but they took an entire point off of it.
Yeah, and the effect. But Sink Below is busted.
I fucking forgot.
Sink Below's broken.
Effect. Yeah, it's like so.
Sink Below is like a B. Like red Sink Below is like a B+ A- though. So I think this being a sideboard C.
So funny.
C+ is pretty reasonable.
It's so funny that for years we've been like, oh, these 0-4 defense reactions limit design, and they limit design, especially limited design, so much that they print a 0-for-3 with no effect. Oh my god. It's just
it's a sideboard card.
Yeah.
I think it's really careful about printing more defense reactions as well, though.
Yeah, so. I think this card is like pretty bad, like C-, maybe D+ range. But I haven't played against Nu. I don't have that hands-on experience, so
yeah, I'm gonna give it the sideboard grade.
Okay, that's it.
All right, Brendan, we've done it. That must be record time for a set review for us. I know we're missing a few cards.
We get all the tricks up our. We've learned a few things over the years, so we can get these things out. Like it's not only the review, but it's also. I don't know if people know how we do it on the back end to get it done so quickly, and that's a trade secret. But yeah,
this will be up. We don't want to give that one away.
Yeah,
this is gonna be up in the next 36 hours from recording.
Yeah,
I hope. Before we wrap up, want to say massive shout out to the set. First of all,
I'm actually really excited for the spoiler. No, I'm fucking kidding.
I think we got forgotten off the list. Clearly, no, I'm really excited to play this at the world premiere in Tokyo. I think the set looks super cool.
It's peak TCG design.
No, sorry, I don't think it is.
I think it looks great. I think it looks super cool. I think it's really, it does. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think Limited looks fun, which is, trust me. I mean, this is me talking. I'm saying Limited looks fun. That's a stretch. But the constructed implications are great. Enigma is just, let's be real. Enigma's just way cooler than all the other heroes. And if you play Enigma, you are just cooler than all the other people. Like that hero is sick.
I kind of agree. If you play Nu, you're lame.
Yeah.
And before I play Nu, probably Worlds or something, or Nationals. The set looks cool. I'm excited to play it. I think the reservations I have about it are around how the 30 card kind of thing plays out and how set will play out and how the draft experience will be. But I am optimistic rather. I think this is going to be it's going to be good.
I think it's dangerous, but I was so done with the 30 plus card just attrition stuff. Like it wasn't so dominant in things like heavy hitters that it overshadowed all other strategies, but it was just like it's just such an unfun way to play the game. It's skill testing. It's extremely skill testing, but it is very complicated. For so if you're casting or if there's a stream going on, it's very hard to actually articulate that to a casual viewer, like deck damage. Oh, we have to
you can't
guess.
See the decks.
Yeah, you cannot see it. It's so bad. It's such a terrible viewing experience. And I think it was just a really bad gameplay experience. Honestly, it made me. Yeah, it was one of the main reasons I didn't like. I had kind of stopped liking Limited. So I'm very excited for 30 cards. Could be a shit show. I don't think it will be. I think they tested it internally. But it, it's a very volatile thing. To institute. I think, but I do think it was very much needed to at least try.
Yeah, I'm keen for it. Also constructed. Yeah, kind of keen. In terms of next week on the pod, we are going to do a retrospective of the world premiere and calling. Definitely going to talk about all the tips and tricks for pre-release, as I won't get a time to make a... Usually for these pre-release seasons, I like to make a video, right? Whether it's part of limited time only or kind of the pre-release primer. I just don't think it's going to be feasible to do so. Get back from Japan and then immediately I'm traveling. So again, dude, I feel like I'm in a plane like half my life at the moment. But we will talk about in the pod next week all the tips and tricks for pre-release, everything learned over the weekend. And take us up, Brendan.
If you enjoy the podcast and you enjoy how fast it goes up, you get your limited reviews. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps so much. We're on Twitter, BrendanAPG, fan_Dale. Video version of this on YouTube with card images. How'd they get the card images up there so quick? You'll never know. It's a big shout out to all the Arsenal Pass patrons. You help us do what we do. And thank you all so much for listening. Have fun at your pre-release. Enjoy Part the Mistveil. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one.
Yep.